Hello, romance lovers. Today's story is called My Mother Gets Married Again. If you enjoy our videos, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss out on more exciting stories. One fine day, the mother told the main character that if she had not been there, she would not be living like this now. The woman claims that she looks like this, but in fact, she was a lady from an aristocratic family. The lady with the long hair says that her father got into a lot of debt and was a merchant and then sailed away on a ship. She suggests that if he had returned, they would not have been driven off their land. The main character's mother finishes the bottle and says that she would not live in such poor streets, but would remarry and start a new life. And again, she repeats that if only she didn't have a daughter, everything would work out. Hearing this, the little girl says that her mother is right, and she thinks so too. The main character reflects on the fact that her mother is the most beautiful in the world, and she has golden hair that flutters like the sun, and bright blue eyes like cornflower. The girl knows that her mother has neat features and skin as white as milk, and always and everywhere she looks like a fairy. And that is why she is proud of her mother. The little lady understands that her mother lives on such a poor street, but originally she was noble, and she is the only one of all the people she knows who can write and read. Lyrica reflects that her mother behaves this way because she suffers so much because of this. The daughter always brought her mother home after she got drunk and fell somewhere. The main character knew that her mother was angry with her every night, and she spent the money she earned on alcohol. However, the girl thought that all this would finally end when her father returned and everything would change. The girl imagined that when her dad returned, he brought the money he had earned. He also understood that his daughter had to endure a lot of suffering during this time and therefore offered her to live together. The main character imagines that they are rich. At this time, she remembered what she had forgotten, thought about something else, and her hand stopped moving. Lyrica understands that she is working now and will continue to do so until the day her mother starts smiling again. And she will protect her. At the end of the working day, the girl summed up that she had worked well today. The gentleman says that she is very useful because she is neat and does not engage in petty theft. And then he gives her a coin and suggests that she should try harder. The girl claims that work is trust, and then invites him to trust her with work in the future. The owner looked at the girl and said that she was very persistent, and it would be good if his child was at least half like her. And then he said that the young lady had worked hard. The main character says that work is trust, and she once learned these words from a shoeshine uncle. And so she keeps them in her heart and applies them in any work, and it helps her a lot. Walking down the street, the girl thought that she needed to buy some bread. And at that moment, she smelled a delicious smell and thought that it had just been taken out of the oven. And the bread looked soft and hot, and probably delicious. The little lady is thinking that she would like to bite into this hot bread so that it fills her whole mouth. And she would also like to hit herself with it at least once until her stomach hurts. Lyrica thought about how she got a big copper coin today and she could buy a whole baguette of bread with it. And at that moment, she remembered that she hadn't paid her rent last month. The man asks how long they plan to keep his money. Mom says that she doesn't have money to give to someone like him, and then tells him to get lost. The man heard this and got angry and attacked the lady with his fists. At that time, the main character realized that her mother was in danger, and she stood in front of her. And then she got a fist in the face. The blow made the little lady fall, and blood started flowing from her mouth. When the mother saw the girl, she screamed that he was beating people, and said that she would call the guards now. At this time, Lyrics thought that she was in heaven, and everything was filled with notes. And then she remembered that this month she had to pay her rent. And she turned to the saleswoman and asked her to cut and sell her half a loaf of bread. The main character wonders if her mother is still sleeping, and then reports that she has returned. And when the girl entered the room, she saw her mother on the bed and thought that she was still asleep. And then she quietly went to her savings and thought that her secret pantry had chewed her well. Lyrica took the silver coin and thought that she needed to hide it better so that her mother wouldn't see it. After all, with the money she earned today, she would one day buy a chicken for this silver coin and raise chicks. The main character thinks that when these chickens become hens, she will buy a goat and then a cow. And after that, she will buy a horse. And the girl dreams that she will become rich. At this time, the mother, lying on the bed, begins to scream. And the girl does not understand what happened to her and then asks if she is okay. The woman grabbed her daughter by the hand, and at that moment, the main character thought that her eyes were not focused, and she should make sure that her mother drank in moderation. After all, if you indulge in too much alcohol, then your head goes crazy. And life really does come to an end. Mom asks the girl in surprise where she is now. And then the daughter asks if she recognizes her Lyrica. and she claims that this is their house and asks if she remembers. The woman does not understand how her daughter is alive. And then she says in surprise that she has become younger, and she wonders how old Lyrica is now. A little girl says she is 8 years old. Hearing this, the woman screams that it can't be. And then she says that her head has become strange. And this can't be. Then she looks out the window and says that this is a poor area. At this time, the main character thought that her mother was okay and she just had a bad dream. And now she is too excited, and so if she goes, she might hit her. The girl understands that she needs to wait until she calms down. The lyrics address the mother and say that she was worried and therefore suggests that she calm down. And at that time, she thought that her mother might hit her. The woman turns to her daughter and tells her that she is her precious lyric. And then she excitedly claims that she is actually alive and hugs her daughter. The lady says that she is very sorry. And at this time, the main character does not understand why her mother suddenly behaves like this. The woman claims that it is all her fault, because she is too stupid. She says that her mother was very stupid and did not know how dear her daughter was to her. Hearing this, the main character thinks that her mother cannot say such words to her. And at that time, she thought that this was a dream. Mom says that she loves her daughter and hugs her again, and then claims that Lyrica is her treasure. The little lady reflects that this cannot be true, and when she wakes up, she will be even sadder. The lady says that she is her precious child, and the girl convinces herself that it is a dream, and suddenly tears flow from her eyes. Mom says that she is her favorite child and she loves her. And then she kisses the girl and says that it is true. Lyrica understands that this is not a dream, and it turns out that being in her mother's arms is so good. The main character doesn't understand what to do if her mother changes again, if she becomes the same as before. A woman asks her daughter what date it is. The girl replies that it is the year 480, the month of young shoots, the 15th. Hearing this, Mom says that there will soon be a ball at the Imperial Palace. And then she says that she needs to go to that ball at any cost and meet His Majesty the Emperor. Mom knows that the Emperor is the top and the most important person with high status, and he is the one who made Lyrica and her mother look like dust. The woman says that she needs to prepare today and go tomorrow. However, she understands that the only chance is today. Hearing this, the main character screams that it doesn't make any sense. And then she thinks that she was wrong when she thought that her mother had changed. The daughter asks the woman how she will be able to enter the ball in the Imperial Palace, and then she says that she will be turned away at the entrance. And she wonders what she will do if His Majesty eats her heart. Lyrica heard that the Emperor freezes those he doesn't like. And at that time, she thought that her mother's head was going bad and she doesn't understand what to do. Mom says that she has a way to get inside, but she of course understands that it won't work in this form. The woman is thinking that she needs to borrow suitable clothes from a pawn shop, and if she can just decide that, she can do the rest herself. The mother says that she has no money and turns to her daughter, and then asks to trust her mommy just once. Lyrica understands that her mother's words are nonsense, and it is obvious that she will not even be able to enter the banquet hall. And the money lying around is the month's rent, and it will have to be paid back soon. The main character reflects on the fact that she does not want to be beaten again. Mom strokes the girl's face and says that she understands everything, and if that's her opinion, then nothing can be done. And then she says that Mom will try her best for Leary. And she says that she knows very well that Leary will be a happy child even without all this. The woman explains that this is still just Mom's greed, and she will do everything possible for her daughter, and if it works out, then as much as she wants. Mom hugs the girl and suggests that she go to bed early today. The little lady takes the bread she bought today and offers it to her mother to eat. Then she explains that she was full earlier, so everything is fine. The mother offers her daughter to eat bread together. And at this time, the main character understands that it makes no difference that the mother says a little strange things and she has changed a lot. Lyrica thought about how happy she felt today. And then she fell asleep. When the girl woke up, she did not see her mother near her and went to look for her. And then she noticed that her savings were gone, and her silver coin was gone, and her chickens would also be gone. Lyrica understood that this was too much, and that day she hated her mother for the first time. The main character understands that she does not have a single coin in her hands, and therefore she cannot rest from work. But even if so, she does not want to return home. The little lady reflects on the fact that she cannot always rely on her father. Suddenly, she saw expensive-looking shoes, and she doesn't understand why this man came to her. And then she asks him to go away and leave her alone. A strange man approaches Lady Lyrica and says that he has come for her. At this time, the girl did not even suspect that from that day on, her fate would completely change. Lyrica realizes that this is not the first time she has met a man who seems rich, and she remembers the man who threw her a silver coin so that she could buy herself something tasty. The main character reflects on the fact that a man has appeared who seems even richer than that gentleman. The man says that she was not at home, and that is why he looked for her for a very long time. The girl looked at him and thought that he had expensive-looking clothes. He also had good posture and seemed to be an important person who almost never had to bow his head. The little lady excitedly asks if her mother has done anything wrong. The stranger calms the girl down and says that her mother asked him to bring her to her, and she will hear the details when she arrives at the place, and he is only carrying out orders. The guy says that they better leave before anyone sees them. The lyrics address a stranger and say that she shouldn't follow strangers. Upon hearing this, the man says that his name is Laub Wolf, and then he claims that they are no longer strangers. The girl asks what he wants from her, and he says that her mother is very ill, because she got into an accident and therefore asked him to bring her. And she is very persistent and looking for her daughter. Hearing this, the main character screams that her mother got into trouble. And she doesn't understand that she got hurt, Mom, when she tried to enter the ball in the imperial palace. The little lady remembers how she prayed so much that nothing would happen to her. And she tried to hold on well and thought that finally, even on these poor streets, nothing bad would happen to them. And she doesn't understand how this could happen. The girl, screaming that she is already on her way, and then quickly gets into the carriage, and screaming says that her mother's daughter Lyrics is already on her way, and then turns to the coachman and wags him to leave quickly. Lob turns to the little lady and tells her that she can't trust people so easily. Hearing this, the main character was surprised and then says that he said that her mother was hurt. However, the man assures her that her mother is healthy. Lyrics at this time thought about the fighting ability of the girl of the head of the family from the street of the poor, being in a rage. And she thought about him being a deceiver. Laub understands that it is time to get out, but if he lowers her himself, she will probably scratch him. And it does not matter that if Lyrica touches him, she is so weak that if she suddenly hits him, she will break something. The girl noticed that the place they had arrived to did not look like a slave trade site. The gentleman informs her that this is a separate palace, one of the small palaces belonging to the imperial one. And then he asks if she is ready to go out. Suddenly, the little lady heard her mother's voice calling her name. And then she saw her mother and ran up to her and hugged her. The woman asks her daughter for forgiveness and then asks if she was worried. The lyrics suggest that this time she was actually angry. The lady with the blonde hair says that she knows this, and then explains that mommy was terrible and did a bad thing. And then she justifies that she had no other ideas. The daughter says that she doesn't understand what it all means. The mother invites her to go inside and says that she will tell her everything. The woman thanks the gentleman for bringing her daughter. And at that moment, the little lady noticed that the grown man was worshiping her mother. Mom decided to wash her daughter. Lying in the bathtub, the girl asks if they can use such an incredible place, and she wonders what happened to her mother. The woman explains that she attended a ball at the imperial palace and met His Majesty there. Hearing this, the main character thought that the high nobility has a special ability, and the current emperor is a truly frightening person. He rips out children's hearts and eats them, and freezes people he doesn't like, thereby killing them. Daughter suggests her mother to be careful if she doesn't want her heart taken away. The woman assures that everything is fine, and then explains that the emperor is a rational man. Upon hearing this, the girl does not understand how rationality and fear are connected. The mother puts the shoe on the foot and asks her daughter to try to stand up. At this time, the girl feels that it is very soft for her. And then she feeds the girl. The woman says that the day after tomorrow, her mother will play a wedding with His Majesty the Emperor. And then she remembers that the secret penetration was successful. And also, she is the first girl who hit the Emperor. The mother explains to her daughter that this is an unusual marriage and therefore she will tell only her the secret, and in fact, it is a contract marriage. The girl asks her mother if she can do a good job. After all, it means that she has been assigned a job. Mom says that she thought her daughter would be more surprised. And at that moment, the girl replies that it was enough. And she thought that if she were more surprised, she would simply die. Lyrics understands that all this now makes sense and that the mother and the emperor fell in love with each other and got married is just ridiculous. And if this is a marriage contract, then you can be calm. And the main thing is that working on poor streets with an attitude of trust will not work. The girl ponders the fact that they were given the job, and even though the situation is not so simple, and she does not understand why she should not say that it is so. However, she still does not believe that her mother married His Majesty, and this means that she will become the Empress. The little lady is sure that her mother is very beautiful. And anyway, a deal is a deal, and a contract is a contract. And she thinks that she must help her mother with the work. The girl asks what will happen to her then. The woman explains that they agreed that she would become an adopted daughter, and therefore starting from the day after tomorrow, she will be a princess. Hearing this, the main character thought that if there is no bread, she can eat a bun. And she does not understand why princesses have such a strange image, but think that everything will be fine. And this means that she is a princess by contract. Lyraika is interested in what kind of work the princess does and how long the contract is for. Mama says that she thinks about 8 years. And until His Highness the Crown Prince becomes an adult and then an emperor. The woman asks her daughter if she knows that the emperor is currently occupying this position temporarily, and until his nephew, the Crown Prince, comes of age. At this time, the girl thought that this was some kind of complicated domestic history of the imperial family. Since it is a well-known story, no one believes that he will return the throne. The daughter reflects on the fact that 8 years is a very long time, and by that time she will also have grown a lot. Mom offers her to live together in a beautiful house on a fairly quiet outskirts of the capital and grow a small garden. Hearing this, the girl became interested in whether she could really take possession of it. And this time she imagines herself watering flowers. The woman assures the girl that they will still travel peacefully. And then she says that they agreed that she will receive an incredible amount of money. But for this, she should never tell anyone about everything, because this is a huge secret that must not be revealed under any circumstances. The daughter tells her mother not to worry and then assures her that she will never tell anyone, even if she dies. The woman is sure that her daughter will do as she says. At this time, the main character thought that although her mother decided to do this, she still looks very scared. Lyraika tells her mother that everything is fine because she has her, and suggests not to worry because her daughter will always be there and even protect her if necessary. When the girl said these words, she thought that everything was swimming before her eyes, and she felt like she was about to fall. At this time, there are rumors that because of such a sudden order that His Majesty will marry the day after tomorrow, this palace is turned upside down. Because the hasty wedding with the Empress from the poor streets is only 3 days in preparation, the aristocrat asks his friend if he thinks they could be left without guests. However, he assures that the spring balls are currently taking place, and all the gentlemen have arrived in the capital from the provinces. The maid says that they were in such a hurry that the bride's dress was altered from a ready-made one. And she was surprised because she saw such a style for the first time. On the side of the popa, there was volume. The older lady, hearing this, says that it is indecent, and the young one objects and says that it was wonderful. The next day after the wedding, the ceremony of acceptance took place, and this means that Lyraika is a princess. The aristocrats do not understand why they would agree to teach such a child, and say that the teacher of etiquette for the princess will be given the right to enter the Palace of the Sun. The surprised man says that this is a special opportunity that was given only to the highest nobility, and even then to very influential people, and any aristocrat can enter the Palace of Heaven. But the Palace of the Sun is different. After all, the most important thing is that His Majesty the Emperor lives there. The aristocrat says that all this time they have been choosing empresses from their family, and now they have put pressure on them, and he does not understand how they can make rootless people empress and princess, and give such scum the surname Takar. The Duke says that no matter what anyone says, Her Majesty the Empress is beautiful. And with such a face, it was inevitable. And besides, she was unusually skilled. The prince talks about how Lyra is like a princess, and she is the daughter of a sneak who became an empress in an instant. And he understands how incredible this woman is, and he wants to meet her. And he is also interested in what will happen to the mother empress and her daughter next. The maid turns to Princess Lyraika and says that Her Majesty the Empress conveys that she will be able to meet with her today. The main character realizes that the next day of the wedding ceremony was very chaotic, and she received a new name. And she discarded the original surname Vance and received the surname of the imperial family Takar. The girl understands that she must bow her head to the emperor and empress and the crown prince, to these 3 people. And it is also said that she has a very high position, but she still does not feel that this is reality. Lyraika thought about how she became a princess, and it was as if she was roasting nuts on a fire from lightning. Because the main character suddenly became a princess, so she learns the rules of etiquette every day. And so she has no free time except in the morning. But it's so strange every time she goes to meet her mother. The maid reports that her mother is sleeping, and she is tired, and she is also sleeping, and the next day too. The main character reflects on the fact that after the wedding, she was never able to meet her mother. But today, finally, Lyrica saw the most beautiful mother in the world, graceful. The girl noticed that her mother had lost too much weight. Then she asked if everything was okay with her. The woman replies that she feels fine. Then she says that she heard that her daughter has been studying etiquette all this time and asks if it was difficult. The daughter explains that Lady Glendorin is teaching her diligently. She also said that she has good results, since she was worried about her origin, but she is not absent-minded and reserved, and does not use foul language. And even on the contrary, a person is excellent when he learns from another person. The girl tells her mother that the teacher assures her that she is too energetic and also very cute. The daughter asks her mother if she is really okay because she sees that she is very tired. She also wonders if she sleeps well at night. Hearing this, the woman smiled and then said that she could hardly sleep at night. However, her daughter assured her that she should sleep well. The woman told her not to worry because her mother was fine. When Lyrica came out of her mother's room, she said that she did not understand why her mother was so tired. Hearing this, the maid smiled and said that the emperor torments her every night. And then they tell the girl what she told her. There is a secret. The little lady thought that the emperor tortured her mother every night, and therefore he was a terrible person after all. My daughter wonders if he beats or abuses her every night. And maybe they do wrestling or backdoor sex. The main character thinks that she should do something and does not understand what she can do. Suddenly, Lyrica sees the butler and asks if she can seek an audience with the emperor. When the servant left the emperor's office, he said that His Majesty said that he had time now, and therefore she should go to him immediately. At this time, the main character thought that she should go forward and everything is fine. And everything is fine. Standing in front of His Majesty's door, the girl remembers that her teacher told her that when she visits Her Majesty the Emperor, she should not look him in the face until she greets him. The princess must bow only to the emperor, empress, and crown prince, and only to these three people. And that means she must curtsy to His Majesty the Emperor. The emperor asks what happened, and the girl explains that she came because she has a request. And at that moment, she thought that she should not be afraid, because she can, after all. She is a brilliant and brave Lyrica. The main character, screaming, turns to His Majesty and asks him to stop tormenting her mother every night, and then explains that her mother can't even get up in the morning, and she feels like she needs to get a good night's sleep. Lyrica asks the emperor to stop torturing her. However, the gentleman objects and says that he is sure that her mother said that she likes it. At this time, the girl does not understand why everyone started to clear their throats, and she thought that maybe she just hasn't studied it yet. But coughing during the emperor's speech is good manners. Suddenly, the girl heard loud laughter, and she thought that, I don't know, maybe she did something wrong and made a mistake in something. At this time, a man approaches Lyrica and tells her that this fool is laughing at her and therefore suggests not to worry, since she is a brave princess. And he explains that His Majesty will no longer torment Her Majesty the Empress every night. The main character heard this and did not understand who these people were, since she only noticed them now. The girl looked at the man and thought that he was helping with the documents, and the other man was a knight. The man says that his name is Rat, and he is the chancellor of this country. And his friend's name is Tan, and he is the commander of the Imperial Guard. Hearing this, the main character thought that they were great people. And then she said that she had to leave. And at that time, she thought that her dilemma had been destroyed, and it seemed that she could not stay here. The emperor heard this and asked why she was leaving, and then suggested that she go to him. When the girl heard his call, she was very surprised, and he claims that they will eat her. At this time, the girl thought that the princess under the contract is work, and this is trust. His Majesty takes the girl and sits her on his lap, and then asks if she is a candy wrapper. Since he only hears the rustling of clothes and there is no weight, the emperor says that her mother said that she loved her daughter very much, but she starved her and asks about it. The girl, screaming, answers that she was not hungry and does not understand how he can insult her mother. However, His Majesty is interested in why she is so light and asks her about it. The emperor claims that she will probably fall if he pushes her with his finger, and then offers to watch. However, the girl claims that her body is strong, and then she falls to the floor with 2 touches of the emperor's fingers. Seeing this, the chancellor cries out, turns to His Majesty and asks how he could do this. The knight lifts the girl up and says that the princess is as light as a sugar snack. Then he asks if Her Highness is okay. Wrath examined the girl and said that her forehead was red and the back of her head was not swollen. And he asked if it hurt when he touched her. The lyrics say that everything is fine. The emperor explains that the child said that he was strong, And when he does this to Atil, then everything is fine with him. The knight says that His Highness is the crown prince, a man and also stronger than the girl. The emperor explains that he has a daughter for the first time and then apologizes. He also orders the doctor to be called and some snacks to be brought, such that the princess will like them. The butler ponders the fact that everyone is pondering how to treat the princess. The doctor examines the girl and asks where she hit herself. And at that moment, the girl thought that 3 of the most influential people in the country had gathered in this office and were caring for her alone. And she understands that the daily life of the princess will change. And in the end, the best support in the palace is the emperor. Lyrics asks His Majesty if he will eat with her. And he offers to give these sweets to the princess, and so she can eat them in peace. At this time, the main character remembers that just last week she was just looking at white bread in the bakery. And today she is eating much better food. At this time, the chancellor was watching her and said that he thinks that resolving issues with sweets is a bit low level, and in the current situation, it is appropriate. The emperor says that he actually didn't remember his daughter at all now. It seems he will never be able to forget about her, because it turns out that there is such a thing in the world. His Majesty wondered where else in the world one could find such effective appearances, and he also thought that the girl was nothing like her mother, but their eyes were similar. The girl announces that she is leaving, and at this time the chancellor says that he would like to ask her something. Wrath asks if her mother told her that His Majesty tortures the empress every night. Hearing this, the main character thought that they might misunderstand this and think that mother told her to do something with her help. And then she objects and says that she came herself, and mother doesn't even know about it. The chancellor says that he will then ask her a slightly different question, and then asks if she likes the way they are living now. Wrath turns to His Majesty and asks what he thinks about making Sul the princess's personal maid. And the emperor agrees with him. At this time, the main character thought that Wrath, although he looks soft, perhaps he is an unkind person, because there are few kind people among high-ranking people. And they are categorical and sometimes very cold. The butler announces that he can escort Her Highness the princess. Hearing this, she objects and says that everything is fine and she can return alone. The knight says that this won't work, because you can't force the princess to go alone. And then he says that you can send a maid with the idea. But today he will go with her himself, and at the same time he will dodge work a little. Tan takes the little lady on his shoulder, and at this time she doesn't understand what's going on. But luckily she put on several layers of underwear. The girl says that she is already 8 years old and she is big. The knight offers the servant to take him to the princess's room. At this time, Lyrica thought that she was very ashamed, and she did not understand whether this was possible at all. And she thought that perhaps the princess always moved exactly like this. The girl remembers her teacher's words that she is a princess and must always behave appropriately. The lyric asks that if this is the wolf family, then he is probably with the knight. The man replies that he is also from his family and thinks he is some kind of second cousin. The main character says that she thought so, and then asks him to tell him that she is very sorry that she spoke too menacingly. And she explains that when he brought her to the palace, she thought that Lob wanted to kidnap her. The knight heard this and laughed. And he said that even if she said something threatening, he didn't care, but he would pass it on. The girl said goodbye to the knight and thought that the first half of the day was really long and she was tired and needed to rest before etiquette lessons began. And she also remembers that the bread and chocolate were delicious, and she didn't think that this dark liquid would be so cool. Lyrica looks out the window, and it turns out that the garden is very clearly visible from her side. And so she wants to go out for a while. But suddenly, a woman enters her room and says that her name is Bryn Sol, and that today she is her personal maid. The maid informs that His Majesty has ordered her room to be changed, and all the things will be moved by the servants, and therefore she should not worry. Bryn points to the room and says that a little earlier it was a passageway, and the door on the right is the living room. Next to it is the bathroom. And she asks if the princess likes the new room, and it is next to the Empress's chambers. The little lady replies that she likes it very much because the window overlooks the whole garden and she can go out there. The maid says that she is glad that Her Highness likes her, and this room is called the White Dragon Room. And then asks if she knows that His Majesty the First Emperor Takara was a dragon. The maid says that all the rooms of the members of the leading family in the Palace of the Sun are named dragons. In the room of the Black Dragon. And this room opposite. The girl thought she was wondering what the name of the last room was. If she asked, Bryn would probably be in trouble, so she wouldn't ask. And she thought that the name of that room didn't have a dragon in it. The maid says that Her Majesty the Empress's room has always been called the Silver Dragon Room, and it will appear as soon as she climbs the stairs. Then Lyrica ran to her mother, and when she saw her, she said that the girl was her cutie and quickly suggested that they go to her. At this time, the main character thought that the emperor would no longer torment her mother, and so she thought that she could meet her every morning. And now she doesn't worry about anything. The woman says that she heard that her daughter went to see His Majesty today. The girl asks in surprise how she knows about it, and her mother answers that he came to see her. The lady says that the daughter is doing a great job standing up for her mother, but she shouldn't take risks. Then she says that her mother was very scared when she heard about it. The girl thought that she was ready to do anything for her mother, and therefore the emperor did not seem such a terrible person. The woman says that she did it because she was worried about her. And she wouldn't say that because she's worried about her Leary too. Mother says that she can't go to His Majesty whenever she wants. And at that time, the main character thought that he didn't seem like a bad person to her anyway. But Mom insists that it is dangerous and cannot be trusted because he treated her a little affectionately. The woman explains that the emperor is a man who can wring her neck with a smile on his face. Then she asks if she understands. Mom says she doesn't want to scare her, but still suggests being careful. Then she asks what they're doing today, and she wonders if her daughter is spending the day with her mommy. Lyrica says she has etiquette lessons today, which is overheard by Bryn apologize for interrupting their conversation, and then informs her that the etiquette teacher, Lady Glendarren, has told Her Highness not to come to the palace today because she has injured her forehead. The maid informs him that her name is Bryn Saul, and she has been appointed as the new personal maid of Her Highness the Princess. Hearing this, the Empress thought that the man was from the Saul clan, and this meant that her daughter was smart, and she was clutching her place with tenacious hands. The Saul family is a clan that mainly serves the Takar imperial family, and a clan that has become infinitely proud of its service to them. Mother assumes that if their direct relative Bryn Saul was appointed as her personal servant, it means that the adopted daughter will be treated as a real member of the imperial family. The woman thought that once she took over the Empress's position, she would deal with the headmaid until she took over the inside of the palace. Lyrica would remain in the guest room, and she would not be able to interfere with the appointment of servants or Lyra's teachers, and she thought the Emperor would not even care about such things. The Empress understands that there are many people who did not accept her as the Empress, and who want to kill her. And at that time, she thought that the Emperor himself made a step towards Lyrica, and all because she is too nice, and this proves that even a dragon can fall before her. The mother reflects that even if this happens, she will not be able to forgive anyone who lays a finger on her daughter. And then she asks why her baby is so cute, and why she is so beautiful and wonderful. The woman ponders why she didn't know about this in the past, and then hugs her daughter and tells her that she loves her. At this time, the main character thought that she does not understand why her mother laughs from time to time as if she is crying. And then she says that she loves her mother too. The lady says that the fringed dress that Her Majesty wore to her wedding will be very popular in the future, and it is already capturing the trends of noble society. Hearing this, the main character thought that she was so happy that she couldn't believe it, and her mother again said that she loved her. The main character reflects that she is even scared, but therefore she thinks that she needs to listen to her mother, but she does not understand why she is here again. Sitting in the Emperor's office, Lyrica remembers her mother's words that he is a terrible person and that he can twist her head off with a smile on his face. At this time, servants bring various delicacies into His Majesty's office, and the little lady understands that the sweets that change every day are too delicious. Although it seems that Mother was shocked and quarreled with the Emperor, apparently he won, and judging by the fact that now she says almost nothing. The Emperor looks at the princess and does not understand why she is not growing. Hearing this, the servant asks what he is talking about. His Majesty explains that he is talking about the baby and does not understand why she is not growing, because he feeds her well, but she does not get bigger. The Chancellor explains to the Emperor that not even 10 days have passed. His Majesty says that he has seen Adel grow every day and wonders if she has some kind of illness after all. Wrath claims that the princess is not even Takar, not Bharat, and she is not from nobility. Hearing this, the main character, screaming, says that she has no illness and is strong, and then explains that she is growing well, because Bryn said that she cannot make bigger clothes. Lyrica is informed that she is also Takar, even though she is adopted under a contract. And at this time, the main character understands that if she leaves this important place, the contract will be useless. The Emperor thought at this time that after what had been said, she really did seem shabby to him. And then he remembered what she was like when she came and what she was like now. His Majesty asks the girl if she shouldn't grow about 10 centimeters a week. Hearing this, the main character, screaming, asks who grows like that, and then assures that no one grows that much in a week. The emperor reports that he grew up like this. The little lady says that he is not human and that is why he grew up like this. Hearing this, His Majesty asks, "Who said this?" At this time, the main character thought that he was saying this as if it meant nothing. And in fact, these are not just words because they need to be answered properly. The princess says that the members of the imperial family are descendants of a dragon, and then explains that this is why His Majesty looks like a dragon, because that's what Bryn said. And the girl is sure that the emperor is a dragon. Wrath reports that the princess said everything correctly, and then suggests not to say not a person, because it is not necessary. Because of this, misunderstandings may arise. The emperor asks what is wrong. And then he claims that everyone thinks so and says that he has neither blood nor tears and that he is not a man. Lyric explains that she was very touched by the story and it seems like a story from the distant past. His Majesty thought that this weak and small girl who would die if he hit her with one finger was running towards him without any fear. But when he looked at her more closely, he thought that it could not be said that she had no fear at all, and most likely she was afraid of him. The emperor understands that despite all this, the little girl trusts him not to harm her, and he does not want to destroy that trust. His Majesty asks why he is the emperor. Hearing this, the main character is surprised and does not understand what he is talking about. The gentleman explains that she must call him Daddy, and at this time he looks into her eyes and he wonders what could be because of these eyes. He agreed to the contract, and he also remembers that her mother proposed a contract marriage to him, and his subordinates said that His Majesty should quickly choose an empress and that this place cannot be left empty. The emperor understands that people who cannot even look him in the eye are coveting the place of the empress and are telling him nonsense. And this is disgusting to him. And he also remembers the woman with the blonde hair who told him that she would marry him. And she also asked him to be a strong support for Togo so that she could fulfill the duties of the empress for 8 years. His Majesty says that even if he says that he will become a support, the emperor's capabilities are also limited, and noble society is a different battlefield. The woman says that she knows all this because foxes and flowers are snakes and wolves, and she can handle them. And he understands that so far she has exceeded all expectations. So much so that he was not even interested in where such a person was hidden. The emperor understands that compared to his mother, that child is a type he has never seen before, and at least has never met anyone like him in the imperial palace. The girl turns to the emperor and he hears this and asks why she doesn't call him Daddy. And then he suggests trying to call him Daddy. At this time, the main character thought that although he is a good person, but it is still only her job. And since it is a job, she should call him that. And she also thinks that this may be too impudent. The girl calls him Papa, and at that moment she thinks that this is not a fantasy, because her real father, whose face she does not even know, is actually a man. And she looks at the emperor and thinks that this man in front of her is her dad. The princess realizes that her father really exists and she can touch him. Suddenly, His Majesty grabbed the girl by the hands and then told her not to do that again, and therefore no one would beat her. At this time, the main character began to cry, and then asked for forgiveness and thought that there are no adults who love crying children. His Majesty explains that of course, although he married her mother, he will not become her father by his own wish. And then he says that he was wrong to force her, and she is not guilty of anything. The princess says that even though it's only for 8 years, he is her father. And the fact that her mother signed a marriage contract meant that she had a father. The emperor says that if her mother finds out that he has brought her to tears again, she will raise a fuss again. Hearing this, the little lady laughed, and he gives her a handkerchief so that she can blow her nose so that the snot does not flow. And then His Majesty says that he must continue to work. The main character thought that the emperor did not ask her to call him Daddy. After some time, the maid came into the office, and the princess said that up close the table was very dirty, and it was not visible because everyone was covering the documents. Lyrica understands that if you look, there are more than 1 or 2 dirty places in the office, and so she told His Majesty that she would wipe the inkwell. The emperor says that she can do whatever she wants, whenever she wants. Hearing this, the chancellor asks if this doesn't mean that he will simply use her labor and kindness. The girl says that this is why they agreed that she would be responsible for cleaning the office. Bryn turns to the girl and says that the princess does not do such dirty work. But the little lady says that she wanted to do something for His Majesty. The maid asks if this means that today the night wolf gave her candy for this reason. The princess shows her the candies and says that they are very beautiful and asks if she thinks the same. And she also said that he thanked her, and after all, thanks to her, the office became clean. The main character says that if the family name is Wolf, and then asks. that other knights from the same family are also wolf. Bryn answers that the night wolf's name is Knight Tanwolf, and she is sure that His Majesty ordered not to let in many people, as he does not like crowds. At this time, the maid thought that everyone was laughing behind her back, thinking that such a girl, having made a mess, would not clean up. But she not only did the job, but much better than everyone expected. And she also perfectly separated the trash from the documents. People who made fun of her pointed out that her origins were immediately visible, and it seemed that the Chancellor was also worried at first. And he also said that he would not tolerate it if the office became even dirtier. Wrath was surprised, because the girl turned out to be more systematic than he had suggested. And the sorting of documents was done. The Chancellor asks the princess if she can read. She replies that she knows, but not everything. The main character turns to her maid and asks if she feels like she is not growing. Bryn replies that she is growing well and then asks who told her that. At that moment, the girl whispered something in her ear. Hearing this, the maid smiled and then assures the girl that she is growing well and that others are just growing faster. The maid says that there is a reason why they are strong and even stronger people. Bryn reminds the princess that she told her that His Majesty, that is, the Tokar family, are descendants of a dragon. And therefore, she will also tell about the history of the emergence of the state. The maid reports that ancient people were truly outstanding magicians, and they were able to do absolutely everything they thought about, and although God told them to use this will for good purposes. But of course, people did not do so. As a result of the chaos, the continent where people lived split and began to settle. However, some people obeyed God's command and built a ship on top of the mountain. At the moment when the continent collapsed and began to settle, a dragon flew up, grabbed the ship, and flew away with it. And so, the people on the ship survived and got to these lands where they now live. At that time, the territories were covered with dark forests and swamps, and various monsters lived there. And so the dragon turned into a man and led the people, fought with the monsters, won back the lands, and founded the country again. The princess asks if the dragon is Takar. The maid says that she is right, and then tells her that after the country grew larger, some monsters asked the dragon to let them join them. The maid says that among them was a huge wolf and his descendants, the wolves. And the descendants of the giant snake, which was larger than the girth of a tree, are called Sandar. The dragon transformed all the people, and they gave him an oath of allegiance. It was said that in return, if they suddenly harmed the dragon, they would return to their original form. That's why animals are often depicted on the coats of arms of the nobility. And these people are strong. Bryn tells Princess that she is growing well, then explains that they are just faster than her. The main character asks if the Bryn family has a similar story. The maid replies that they were said to be Dorian jackdaws, and they are wise and clever, so they were left around as chamberlains. And that is why Bryn's headband is always so sparkling. The main character thought that Rad is a snake and Tan is a wolf, and it suits them very well, and being in a bad relationship also suits them. Lyrica reflects on the fact that it turns out that she really knows nothing about the palace, even compared to Bryn, even though she is a princess, even though she is a contract, even though she is a daughter, even though she is a contract. And at this time, she understands that most likely she is not there at all. The princess asks the maid to sit next to her, and then says that she wants to become an outstanding princess. The girl says that since she became a princess, she then asks what she can do to develop further and not stop at mediocrity. The maid says that the little lady is right, and the girl says that she knows absolutely nothing about the imperial palace. And she really knows absolutely nothing about the aristocrats and the imperial family. The lyrics state that Bryn has been taking care of the imperial family for a long time, and therefore knows them much better than she does. And then asks if she will help her. Bryn says that she will help her because the Takar do nothing but rule and give orders. And at this time, she realizes that this child is not real. The maid reflects on the fact that there are those in her family who are angry that her direct descendant of the line was introduced to such a child, and it was an order from His Majesty, and the orders of the Takars are unconditional. Bryn thought that if she disobeyed His Majesty, he would most likely throw her out, and she would turn into a raven again. At this time, the maid thought that even if it was not so, she liked this princess even more than the real Takaras. And she is a simple and modest child who catches the eye in this palace of monsters. And she is also a cutie, and this is important. Bryn turns to the princess and says that she will help her. He put all his efforts into it. The maid asks the girl what she wants to know first. She replies that she wants to know about the imperial palace, because it is her home now. And the fact that she does not know its structure makes no sense, and she does not even know who lives there. At this time, the main character thought that if she was going to do something, then first she should find out about his laughter. And only after that she could calmly move inside him and do the work. Bryn takes the map of the palace and shows it to the girl. Lyrica thought that there are a lot of rooms in this palace. But when she saw it, she asked what kind of passage it is. The maid explains that this is a servant's corridor and is connected to a door used only by servants. The maid shows the girl a secret escape route. Hearing this, the girl thinks that since it is secret, can it be depicted on the map? And asks about it. Blynn replies that this is usually not possible, but since she is Saul, she owns this card. At this time, the main character thought that she had done the right thing by turning to Bryn. Suddenly, Lyrica sees a door and asks what this place is. But the knight stops her and says that the room is forbidden to enter and not just anyone can enter. The little lady says that she has understood, and then suggests to her maid that they leave the place. The girl understands that there are many closed places and it is very difficult to examine the rest, since the palace is incredibly spacious. The princess gradually gets used to the fact that people bow to her with their heads or their whole bodies. Suddenly, the main character saw the chancellor, who was holding papers in his hand, and asks if she is busy. The girl answers that she is going around the palace to understand its structure, and this is her home, and therefore she should know it. Wrath claims that she is doing the right thing and then asks if she has ever come across places that she could not enter. The little lady says that some of the knights wouldn't let her in. The chancellor says that if she goes to the knight's office, she'll find Tan there. Then you suggest that she tell him about it and ask him to assign a knight to them. At this time, the maid thought that this was a good idea, and the girl said that she understood everything. Rat asks the princess what her last name is, and the girl replies that it is Takar, and the gentleman suggests that she not forget about it. And then he says that she is incredible because she managed to get help from the Saul family. Then the girl went to look at the guards and saw that everyone was trying and only the man was at a distance. But when she came closer, the knights greeted the princess. The lyrics say that she is also glad to meet them, and at that time she thought about how big they are all. The surprised knights ask the princess what brought her to them. At that moment, Tan comes out of his office. The little lady addresses him and tells him that she needed to talk to him and that she had just met Wrath. Then she asks if it is okay to talk about this in front of so many people. Tan picks up the girl and then says that he asks for his forgiveness and tells her that she can whisper in his ear. The knight looked at the maid and said that she could lower her weapon. And at that moment, he thought that, having pulled such a thing out among the wolves, she could die. Lyrica reassures her maid and tells her that everything is fine. However, Bryn claims that it is not permissible to touch His Highness's precious body without permission. Tan explains that's why he asked for forgiveness, and then asks if, given their friendly relationship, this is abnormal. The maid says that she is very happy and thought that the wolves hear everything anyway. After all, that is why she came to borrow the knight. Hearing this, Tan says that he needs to leave. And the girl says that there are some problems. The knight says that she knows that the questions of the members of the imperial family are of primary importance. And then he goes with the girl. At this time, the main character thought that he would not allow it. The knight asks if the princess has been taught how many people she should bow her head in front of. She replies that 3. Tan says that the order of His Majesty is also elevated to the absolute, and they are unconditional on the territory of the empire. And even if they supply a scarecrow and call it Takar, then all the aristocrats of the empire will be obliged to bow to him. At this time, the main character thought that this was something so incredible and the emperor's order. Although she thought that she was a princess, she never suspected all her power. The captain of the guard says that His Majesty has officially accepted her as his own daughter. Hearing this, Lyrica thought that Tan and Bryn must not know that she is a contract princess and that it is temporary. And she is just an adopted daughter. The knight informs her that she is a princess who calls the captain of the Imperial Knight Squad for various trifles. And then he smiles. The main character understands that there are only 4 Takars alive now. And these are the Emperor and Empress, the Crown Prince and Princess. And this means that she is now second in line to the throne. Lyrica understands that the Crown Prince will take it anyway. And it doesn't matter at all, since she doesn't know much about the history of such a large scale. Tan claims that the princess is an important person, and the girl decided to approach the knight. And the captain reports that he will watch from behind. The main character asks if she can come in. The knight says she can't. And at that moment, she thought about how Bryn and Tang Yi are behind her, so she has to be strong. The girl asks why she can't. The knight replies that it is an order from His Majesty the Emperor. Hearing this, she understands that since the Emperor has ordered it, there is nothing she can do. Lyrics asks if His Majesty ordered in his order that the princess specifically cannot enter there. However, the knight replies that in any case it is impossible. At this time, a maid comes up to them and asks why it is not allowed, and then Tan asks him to repeat why it is not allowed, and then he tells him to state his rank. The knight says that he has the 1st Guard Detachment and he is a soldier of the 1st rank, John Enders. The captain asks again why not. However, John can't answer. And Tan says that he knows that only people with a certain level of pass can enter the Palace of the Sun, and then asks if a member of the imperial family needs that level. The knight replies that he doesn't need it, and then the captain asks if he can identify who the maid next to her is. Tang explains that she is a token of the imperial family and asks if he knows the basics. The captain suggests that he bring his superiors. At this time, the maid thought that he was blocking the princess's path, and this was already nonsense. But he also frowned and hit the ground with his spear and threatened her. Bryn can't believe he would act so aggressively towards a small child, and it's unthinkable in the Wolf family. Tan says that he expected some resistance, but he does not understand how a soldier dared to interfere with the legitimate princess, even if she is adopted. And then he turns to the princess and says that she can go quietly. And at this time, he thought that there is no need to show her a threatening scene. The knight says that he will stay here and deal with all this, and the princess asks if he is sure that he can handle it alone, and then says that she can stay with him, even though she knows that he can do everything well alone. But still, in a fight, 4 fists are better than 2. The knight says that if he suddenly gets scared, he will immediately run to the Emperor and therefore suggests the little lady not to worry. However, the girl assures him in the house that he does not need to run away anywhere. Suddenly, the main character saw His Highness and then greeted him. The captain reports that he intended to scold the soldier rather than go to his funeral. The Emperor asks how an ordinary soldier could be so confident in such a thing, and then asks if it is not obvious that there is someone like that behind him. His Majesty comes up to the little princess and pokes her in the forehead with his finger and tells her that she is Takar, and that this has absolutely nothing to do with what kind of person she is, because she has what she does not have. And he tells her that he has accepted her as his daughter, and that means that all people are obliged to kneel before her. The Emperor says that if they do not do this, they are contradicting him, and then asks who it was. The captain replies that this was a 1st-rank soldier, and the Chancellor says that the princess can enjoy the Palace of the Sun as much as she wants, and here she can leave everything to them. At this time, the main character thought that when he smiles, his face scares her, and yet she is sure that chancellors do not become chancellors for kindness. Walking around the palace, the girl noticed that in other previously closed places, soldiers had also been replaced, and apparently rumors spread very quickly. The maid says that it has to do with her being a princess, and everyone is sensitive to issues related to the imperial family. Bryn asks the girl how she likes the taste of power. The girl remembered the sweets and thought that if she hadn't become a princess, she wouldn't even be able to try that for free. Lyrica thought about the taste of power. Then, on such a soft bed, if she were not a princess, she would never have ended up. And then she thought that she liked power. The Chancellor asks Power if this is not the taste of money. However, the Emperor claims that everything depends on how arbitrarily it can use this power. At this time, the main character thought that she had enough power, since she was living in such comfort for the first time. The princess announces that she is leaving, as Bryn told her that she would be introduced to the maids today. The Chancellor says that thanks to her, they removed the guard soldiers, and even inside the Palace of the Sun, they replaced them with a squad of guard knights. Although outside, they still use the soldiers, caring about their reputation. In any case, they were absorbed. Tang says that he heard a while ago, Her Majesty the Empress also changed her headmaid and ladies-in-waiting. The Emperor says that Rudia asked about it, and he said that it was the Empress's duty. Wrath says that she suddenly seemed to have been waiting for this, and got the evidence of their thefts and replaced everyone. And thanks to this, the supporters of the aristocrats lost all their puppets at once. The Chancellor says that the newly elected servant can be so perfect, and it feels like she has seen all the investigation documents that he reviewed and almost fell in love. And at that time, he thought that she acts too decisively, and therefore, it is not even believed that someone is behind her. Rat says that she is not a horse, but a chess player who controls this horse. And he is surprised by her more than once. And such a sweet aroma comes from Lyrica. The main character tells her mother that she was introduced to a new maid, and she and Bryn went to the kitchen. And there she ate some tasty things and took a lot of different things with her. Having heard this woman thought that she had already changed everyone and no one there would feed her something strange. The daughter says that there is a lot of tasty stuff there, and the mother asks if she went to the office today. The girl says that she went to the office, and there His Majesty was throwing documents here and there. And at that time, the woman thought, how dare this dragon bastard? And then she calms herself down and says that her daughter is having a hard time. But the little lady objects and says that she is having fun, on the contrary. And all these letters came for her mother. The woman says that these are responses to an invitation, and she is going to open a salon. She also wants to start investing the money she received from the contract little by little. Mom reports that when she started working, she received a small advance. And when she finishes, all the wealth that they are currently using will have to be left here and therefore. It is necessary to earn a good amount of money, being in such comfort. At this time, Lyrica thought that her mother was very self-confident. And then she suggests that her mother not buy holy water for all illnesses or a clay pot of happiness, because she should be careful with scammers. The woman does not understand why she needs this pot of happiness and asks about it, and then says that she has Lyrica, and suggests not to worry, since Mom will invest 100% only in what will bring profit. The lady tells her daughter not to worry because her mother knows everything. The main character says that when her mother invests, she should tell her, because she should definitely know about it. And she thinks that she should monitor this process. At this point, Mama thought that what was more important now was that she had to give something to Leary. And then the bell rang, and the maid brought the tray and the silver coin that Mama had once borrowed from her. The woman reports that she had difficulty finding that particular silver coin, but the old man promised her that he would put it separately. And then she asks if it is her daughter's coin. The girl was surprised when she saw the coin, and then she said that it was her silver coin, and she remembered all the stains and scratches on it. And then she remembered how many times she stroked it and dreamed about the future. And frankly, Lyrica was upset and thought that there was nothing she could do about it. She did not want to get another silver coin, because it would not replace the one she had. The main character understands that it is very childish and too inconstant to talk about such things. And then she thanks her mother. The woman objects and says that she is grateful to her and asks for forgiveness for not being able to find the other coins. The daughter takes her mother by the hand and says that everything is fine, because the silver one is important, and then asks how much effort she spent looking for this one coin. Mom says that Lyrica's happiness is her happiness too. The maid asks the girl if she likes the coin so much. Then she says that she will always carry it in the purse that her mother made for her. At this time, the main character thought that although there was money in this purse, no gold coin would reach her silver one. And this was her only precious silver coin. Suddenly, Lyrica saw the next room, which is called the Black Dragon Room and the Crown Prince's residence. And at that time, she thought that she had never met the Crown Prince, even during the wedding. The maid explains that His Highness is currently on his lands. And then she says that long ago, people set a certain age for the Crown Prince, and when he will receive lands, then, speaking of Duke Rowan, she means His Highness the Crown Prince. Lyrica asks when he'll be back. Bryn says she doesn't know. And if you think about it, it's about time he was back. At this time, the servant turns to His Highness and suggests that they go a little slower, since they have not had a single rest since leaving. Then he reports that everyone is exhausted, except for the wolves. The servant asks how His Highness is feeling, since he is returning to his homeland for the first time in 6 months, and then reports that he has relatives now. The Crown Prince heard this and told him to shut up. And then he asked who this family was. At this time, the main character asks the maid that if His Highness is the Crown Prince too, is he considered her older brother? The lyrics say that she heard that His Highness the Crown Prince will be returning soon, and she wonders if it would be possible to hold a welcoming party for him. How much would she like to meet him? Hearing this, Mother thought about the failed assassination of the Crown Prince, planned by the Knight's escorts and which will soon happen. Then she was going to prevent it and only maintain a sufficient distance. And then she thinks that anyway, he is the next emperor, and she would like to be on good terms with him, and she wonders if it is possible to give the go-ahead. The woman says she is not sure about the party because the Crown Prince is very picky about food and will not even touch anything unless it was brought by people close to him. Mother suggests trying something else instead, and then asks, and it is enough just to greet him. And she thinks that it would be better to clean the room from dust and put flowers and also prepare some goodies, and then asks if it will turn out well. The Empress says that when he gets rid of the fatigue accumulated during the trip, they will have a small tea party. Mother reports that there is much talk about a cruel stepmother and a bad younger sister. and she suggests that perhaps His Highness is worried. At this time, the little lady thought of writing a letter for His Highness the Crown Prince. The girl writes that she has become his younger cousin and lyric, and she greets him and congratulates him on his return, and also wanted to have tea with him in the garden, and therefore if he visits it and shines with his presence, then she will be very grateful. In the evening, the surprised servant reports that they did not know that His Highness would arrive at such a time. The Crown Prince suggests that the butler step aside and then says that he is tired and goes to his room. When His Highness entered his room, he saw that it was in perfect order and also a soft toy that was waiting for him. At this time, the girl who was next to the Crown Prince says that the smell in the room is very good, and a whole bunch of flowers were brought here. And then she says that they were in the north all this time, and therefore she did not even know that spring had come. And she also assumes that this is a girl's handwriting. The girl says that this toy was made by his new sister. And then she takes the sheet and gives it to the Crown Prince to read. The young gentleman says that he can tell his sister that he will come. The partner who has been with him in the north all this time says that this means that he is being met for the first time, and then asks whether he should order food to be prepared or if he wants to wash up. At this time, the girl thought that he would stand for 3 or 4 days under the scorching sun and come to his senses. The Crown Prince announces that he has gone to bed and suggests that they not disturb him until he wakes up. Then he asks what these stupid things are. The surprised partner claims that he must be hungry, and the girl says that the skin on her stomach is already stuck to her back, and then asks Bran if he knew about it. The man replies that he only conveyed that they would arrive around that time and that His Highness loves sweets. At this time, the lady thought that the food was not soft and the flowers were fresh, as if they had just been picked. And she supposes that the girl knew exactly when they would arrive, and that is why she had timed it so. And at this time, she thought that it makes sense to consider that it was not the princess herself who did this, but the Empress as well. The girl became interested in what kind of person this Empress is, and she understands that there is too little information and thinks from tomorrow she needs to collect rumors. The man says that first he will go to bed because he understands that His Highness is stubborn and he does not want to be overwhelmed with work on such a happy day. At this time, the main character, sitting in her room, became interested in whether His Highness had arrived, and she assumes that the tea has not yet cooled down and she can change the delicacies. Lyrica thought that if she went out as usual, she would wake up Bryn, and so she would go down the servants' corridor. And she remembered that they say that if the master is incompetent, then the services will do the job anyhow, although she will do all this work of the maids herself. Suddenly, the girl heard a sound and did not understand. And then she entered the room of the Crown Prince and saw him. The main character was surprised because she didn't expect to see him even today, and she doesn't understand why he's already here. The princess thought that he was too hungry and therefore could not fall asleep, and remembered that there was some food in the living room. And when he sat down alone, it turned out to be delicious, and the following was shortened. At this time, the Crown Prince does not understand why the girl suddenly came out from there. Lyrica ponders that this is definitely the Crown Prince, and he is exactly as rumored. However, she does not understand how she can greet the prince in such clothes. The main character says that she came because she thought that he would not need more tea or sweets. At this time, the young master thought that she was now pretending to be a maid, and he did not understand where in this world there would be a maid who would walk around the imperial palace dressed like that. The prince does not understand why she came out at such a time, and he thought that she came to laugh at him for being a fool, for eating from a table set by an enemy. Suddenly, the girl bent her head, and he wondered why it happened. Only because of that, he sighed. You made him wonder why her neck was so red, that what her face was like. The prince offers the girl something to eat, but she thanks him and says that she doesn't want it. However, the young gentleman insists on his own. And at this time, the chancellor enters the room and says that His Highness the Crown Prince is mocking the poor girl, and then asks if this is a response to the invitation sent to him by the princess. Wrath says that the prince said he would be present. The main character heard this and was delighted. And then the prince told her that she could go, and the girl quickly ran out of the room. The young gentleman asks why she comes out on that side. The chancellor says it is not because, but she is a nice servant and he is sure of it. Attell tells the princess that noble ladies take their maids with them even when they go on a secret rendezvous. Hearing this, the girl asks if it is no longer a secret then. The maid says that the close maid is very important. And the lyrics say that what is more important is that His Highness said that he would come to tea. The princess reports that she saw Bran when she went out into the hallway and he caught her. The girl reports that he looks like her Bryn, and then says that she is more beautiful. The maid says that we need to prepare for tea, and we need food that will remain tasty even if it gets cold. Bryn believes that you need to crush the flesh of peeled cucumbers and marinate it with salt. Then remove the moisture from each piece of white bread and grease it with butter, and you will get a delicacy. And they suggest whipping until the cream increases. The maid claims that he will never get up if he complains about pain in his hands and works half-heartedly, and then suggests making it so thick that he won't fall out even if he turns the plate over. And if they do it haphazardly, she won't leave them alone. The cook announces that at this event, Her Highness the Princess will meet His Highness the Crown Prince. At this time, the main character imagines how she will meet him, and she says that it has become hotter and that she needs to make a shadow. The servant suggests cutting the tree branches and then bending them, and at the bottom they will tie them with a ribbon to the end of the summer umbrella and connect them. The lyrics say that the teacups are very beautiful and then ask if they are. The girl explains that her mother sent her their honor greetings to His Highness, and if you look closely, you will see squirrels on them. On another cup, there is a bear cub drawn, and on each saucer there are different drawings, so it is interesting to look for them. The main character says that the tea was given by Chancellor Wrath, and that is why the herbs smell very delicious. The maid says that even though the table is in the shade, the tea should be warm and suggests putting a steamer on it to keep the heat in so that the temperature doesn't drop. The cook reports that she has prepared caramelized apples and rooibos, delicate aromas of pink flowers and beautiful scarlet in thick and dense cream sour raspberries. Bryn says the tablecloth doesn't match the decoration on the umbrella, then asks if there is another one. The cook says that His Majesty has given permission to use the ice chest, and therefore suggests adding finely chopped lemons to orange black tea and making iced tea. The main character says that she would like everything to be neither too much nor too little. At this time, it was the end of May, and the weather was clear, and the spring breeze was warm and lifted the mood. The girl looked into the garden and saw that the roses were already in full bloom, and she thought when His Highness came, she would have to tell him. Lyrica asks the maid if it is possible that His Highness is very late because he has a lot to do, and she replies that she will send a servant now to find out about it. The servant reports that they said in the Black Dragon's room to convey that His Highness will be delayed. At this time, the main character thought that if the prince said that he would be late, then she needed to wait for him. In the evening, the servant reports that he came from the Black Dragon's room, and His Highness ordered to convey that he is too busy today and will not be able to come. Lyrica tells the servant to tell him not to worry about it and not to blame himself. After all, she is sure that he is worried about the one who made her wait, and she offers to tell him that she is fine and that he should not worry. The girl says that she can send him the sweets she prepared, and then asks what Bryn thinks. The princess says that His Highness the Crown Prince is much taller than her and busier than her, and so if he is busy, then there is nothing he can do and he can break his promise. But she is worried that he will blame himself for this. The female lead realizes that if he did that, because he really had no choice, then maybe that was the case. And she realizes that His Highness the Crown Prince would probably hear it like that. That she is angry now, and she is not okay at all. However, the maid assures her that he will think only of what she meant. After all, up to this point, there was an oral translation in the style of the imperial palace. And there is nobility in this, their princess, that she says such sincerely and without a hint. The princess invites the maid to have tea with her, since it would be too much of a shame to just clean up. Sitting at the table, the girl asks if it really works. Bryn explains that the signals calling servants always work, but it is better to be careful in the presence of soldiers, as they may attack, mistaking the signal calling servants for an order to attack. And there have been such applicants. The maid asks if Her Highness is all right. The girl says that she is sorry because she helped her, but in reality, she thought that this could happen. Hearing this, Bryn is surprised and then asks why she thought so. Lyrica explains that whenever she comes to His Highness's office, he is always busy with work. And if the Chancellor says he has a meeting today, then he is busy today and will not go anywhere. The girl says that His Majesty the Emperor is known for breaking his promise whenever and however he pleases. And she also understands the circumstances of working people. At this time, Tang said that he would hear voices from the garden and was surprised. But when he saw that tea was being held at such a time, he felt very unusual. Lyrica invites him to join them and says that the sunset is very beautiful. She offers Tan to drink tea, because they have a lot of it, and there is enough for everyone and the cream is very tasty. The knight reports that it is too cold in the main mansion of the Wolves, and therefore it is difficult to get something like cream. Hearing this, the girl asks if the cream does not harden in the cold. The man says that because of this, they cannot and will get milk. The princess wondered if it could be that cold there. Seeing the girl, Tan asks if she is okay. The knight informs her that another guest was supposed to come to them today. Then he asks her what he would like to know, whether she was upset. Hearing this, the main character thought that Tan had not come by chance. Lyrica replies that she was not upset. And she also thought about His Highness the Crown Prince, and he turns out to be a kind man. And he kept getting ready, going to and meeting her. The girl says that since he is very busy, he only thought that if he does a little more, the work will be over. The prince ate with all his might, finished his work, and time just flew by, and she is sure that he really tried to meet her. And that is why he told her that he would come later. The main character claims that His Highness will approve of the man, and then she thanks Tan and says that if she were alone, she would definitely feel sad. Well, since Bryn was with her, everything is fine. At this time, the knight thought that this princess does not even admit that someone can hurt her, although she has not lived her entire short life peacefully, and she believes in people. Tan turns to the girl and says that she doesn't need to be so grateful. After all, he ate some goodies and skipped the rest of his work. The commander says that he actually came after defeating Wrath in rock, paper, scissors. Upon hearing this, the girl claims that they could have come together. And he asks who will work then. The lyrics state that she sent some very tasty food to the crown prince to eat while he worked. Hearing this, Tan thought that usually food is sent from a higher person to a lower person. No. And he realized that Bryn's soul did not tell her about this. The maid says that since the younger sister sent him food simply because it was delicious, it makes no difference. The captain wonders how His Highness took it. And at that moment, he thought that something was upsetting him. And if his mother heard about it, she would be sad. And he hoped that she would be okay. The mother turns to her daughter and says that this is a gift. And then the girl says that it is very beautiful. The woman says that she ordered it to improve her mood, and then tells her daughter not to worry, because she is sure that in the future, Attell will regret this day. The maid asks in surprise if this is really lace from Elyurk, and the woman replies that it is from there. And also it is made in the lands called Elyurk, and the price corresponds to the quality because the craftsmen from there make incredibly fine, thin, and beautiful lace. Mother explains that this parasol has a shaft made of elephant tusk and a handle made of gold. At this time, the maid thought that its value was equal to an entire castle, and this was not an exaggeration. Lyrica took the umbrella in her hand and thought about how heavy it was, and then thought that if her mother noticed, she would be upset. The daughter asks her mother if she can go for a walk now, and the mother says that she can go. Walking in the garden, the girl thought that it was much easier to carry the umbrella. And through it, the color sparkles, and it is very beautiful. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the wind came and lifted the umbrella. At this time, the princess screams that her sun umbrella, which her mother bought her, wants to fly away from her. And at this time, she runs after it. Lyrica caught the umbrella and fell with it. Lying on the grass, she heard a voice saying that she had flown on the umbrella from the sun and fallen. And at that moment, she thought that there was someone here. The girl says that she is very sorry, and at that moment, she saw the guy's face. His Majesty asks the girl if she is okay, and then he smiles. Lyrica was surprised, and then replied that she was fine. And at that moment, she didn't understand who he was and thought about how she had never seen anyone so beautiful, except her mother. The guy claims that this umbrella is too heavy for her, and then says that it should be made lighter. At that moment, a servant girl came up to them, and he says that she is the princess about whom so many rumors have been circulating lately. And then he realizes that no one but her would walk around with such a parasol. The gentleman says that he thought she was a gorgeous villain, but she surprised him. Hearing this, the main character thought that she should not forget about nobility, since she is a princess. The lyrics say that you can't determine what a person is like just by hearsay and without meeting him in person. The young gentleman agrees with her and says that gossip and rumors are so interesting. Bryn turns to Duke Barat's son and tells him to show some manners, as he is in front of Her Highness the Princess. The guy says his name is feared, Barat, and he is the masterpiece of the Barat family. And then he asks if that will be enough. At this time, the main character thought that she was doing such a beautiful curtsy for the first time. The guy heard this and asked if she was serious. The girl says that it is true, and he curtsies more elegantly than Lady Glendorin, who teaches etiquette. And then she says that he does it better than any person from the palace and that she has seen such a thing for the first time. Lyrica asks Mr. Feared if he will teach her how to curtsy. The boy explains that in order to train the princess, permission from the imperial court is needed, and asks if she can bring it first. Upon hearing this, the girl was surprised and said that she did not know at all. The young gentleman turned to her and said that she could simply call him Feared. The guy says that he still thinks the teasing strategy won't work and suggests that she leave. The young gentleman informs her that she will not hear anything good if she tells anyone that she met Bharat here. Mom asks the lyricist if she enjoyed the walk. However, the girl does not answer, and she does not understand what is wrong with her daughter. Lyrica asks her mother if she knows Firda Bharata. I thought at that time that although she had asked Bryn I about him, she had answered that it would be too difficult for her or the etiquette teacher to answer this question. And then she said that she could ask Her Majesty the Empress. The woman says that she knows him, of course, and that he is now about 12 years old. And then she asks why her daughter is asking about this. The main character explains that she met him in the garden and he picked up her umbrella. Hearing this, the mother was surprised that she met him in the garden of the Palace of the Sun, the Borat Duchy, leaders of the opposition faction of aristocrats. And they were not satisfied with this, and the greedy flower set its sights on the throne. And unless the crown prince dies, the Borat successor will take over the throne. The empress understands that especially now when the crown prince's mother is of a lower position and there is no other living direct relative from the Tokar family, besides the prince. The woman therefore thought that before the rebirth there was a chance of success and sided with the aristocrats and was against the crown prince. But she hardly thought about Firda Bharati. Her Majesty thought that it goes without saying. He would die in 3 years anyway. And the aristocratic faction had no chance of success. The rights of the dragon, which only Takari has, as well as the knowledge of who the current emperor is because of this, in her past life, the empress lost her child, and she herself stood on the platform for the fire. Because of her, Lyrica died because of her stupid actions. She herself burned in the flame. Mother understood that this was why she did not want to get involved with the aristocrats or the imperial family in this life. And if she had another way out other than a contract marriage, she would have taken it. But since she wanted to use the experience she gained as a dog of the aristocrat faction, she had no other choice. The woman therefore did not pay attention to the seemingly non-existent child who would rather die. She was more concerned about the daughter of Duke Bharat, who would appear in a few years. The Empress doesn't understand why the son of the leader of the aristocratic faction is hanging around the Palace of the Sun. And then she says that Fird's Curtsy is very, very elegant. Lyrics tells him that she wants to learn and asks if it's okay. Mother says he's a boy. However, the girl assures her that he's incredibly good at curtsying. At this time, the mother thought that she could not believe that her daughter was asking for something so persistently. And then she said that she would make a request to the Bharat family. Mother understands that even though he is a political opponent of the crown prince, this child will still die in 3 years. And even if after the divorce they live modestly, they need to leave good connections, and having nothing, it will be easy to get a slap on the back of the head. The woman says that if it is for the sake of protecting her daughter, then she will also twirl the Empress's crown in her hands like a toy. And if she asks her about it, then she must fulfill her request. Mother tells her that very soon she will be able to buy her everything she wants. And then she tells her that her mother will become a rich woman. The woman says that she actually found something to invest in, and a man named Uba is looking for a sponsor for research expeditions. And although they call him a swindler, he is actually honest. Hearing this, Lyrica asks how much she is going to invest. Mother thought for a while and then said that the whole state. Having heard, this daughter said that she will personally talk to that person. The Empress says that most likely he has not yet left the palace, and if she calls him now, she might make it in time. However, the little girl did not listen to the end, but immediately ran to that man. And at that time, the woman thought that with such a gifted tongue as his, he himself would properly persuade her. Although this even more strongly resembles a swindler. Mother understands that her daughter still cannot trust her, and even if everything has been smooth so far. Now you are an expert in society. Her factions of tournament dresses and crinoline dresses are already at odds. And she understands that it will take a little time and the faction of crinolines will be completely defeated. The woman does not understand who will wear a crinoline if, because of the too large clothes, it will not be possible to run normally from a huge fire in the opera house, which will most likely happen. Although now, as an empress, she artificially brought it to popularity. Initially, bustles were supposed to become popular after this incident, and she thinks about the fact that she can still just leave it, burn and as bright as it is. The empress reflects that after Togo succeeds in everything one after another, her daughter too will someday believe her mother. The maid informs the princess that she is not allowed to run. Then she claims that members of the imperial family walk but do not run. The princess answers the maid that she is not a member of the imperial family now, and at that time she thought that this was a shocking confession. And then the girl remembers her mother's words and thinks that because of this, she cannot believe her. The lyrics reflect on the fact that this man is a fraud, and people like him should not be given time to prepare for an attack, because he is going to deceive her homegrown mother and take all her property. The girl understands that she really doesn't know, but at some point her mother completely changed. The main character thinks that her mother decided that the man didn't even meet with her because of his distrust of his mother. Brain tells the princess that the man she is looking for is nearby. The servant says that he welcomes Her Highness the Princess. And at that moment, the unknown man says that she is the very princess that is rumored. The main character looked at this unfamiliar man, and at that moment she thought that this idiot was definitely a swindler. Feared says that for the daughter of a villain and rumors, she was too similar to Robin. At this time, Lyrica thought that he is Uba, and then she, screaming, says that he is a swindler. And at this time, she thought that she got nervous and mixed up what she needed to say out loud and what to herself. The girl thought that she should pretend that nothing happened now. And then she asks if he is Uba and offers to talk to him for a while. The princess thought at this time that the brat looked like a real swindler. And then she said that she heard that Her Majesty had promised to invest in him. The man says that everything is correct, she said. And at that time, the girl thought about what it meant that he had bewitched his mother with his luxurious appearance. The lyrics say that rumors that he is a fraud are widespread. And then she says that we are sure that he deceived her kind-hearted mother. And then she suggests that the man go now and tell Her Majesty the whole truth. At this time, the main character thought that he should have felt the greatness of the princess. The girl realizes that from Uba's perspective, she looks like the sheep he raised as a child. After all, she always stamped her hooves like that when she was angry. The man realizes that now is not the time for such thoughts, and then asks how the princess can call him a fraud and says that he is offended by this. Uba thinks that if his princess listens to what he has to say, she too will be able to find out what the truth is. And at that time, he thought that he had worked so hard to get this sponsor, and therefore he cannot lose him like this. The main character understands that he is right, because getting rid of someone who he didn't even listen to is a little indecent. And at that moment, she thought that she really went a little too far. The lyrics say that she will listen to him first, but only here in the garden can he talk while walking. The girl understands that even if he is a swindler, if she invites him into the room, she will feel too guilty. And if you drive him away, she will have the same feeling. And if he is in the garden, she can easily run to her mother. Uba reports that he has already entered Suhei 3 times, and the first time he lost all his comrades. The man claims that the person who becomes a legend of research expeditions, the borders of the empire will expand, and in territories that could not yet be cultivated even more. On one side, empires, refuge of criminals, endless desert, and on the other, an endless sea of trees. And there live monsters that catch and devour people. These are mysterious lands where neither a compass nor constellations nor the rising sun will help. However, inside the dry grow rare seasoning plants and other things. And also there are many new things that bring them huge amounts of money when the fellow travelers return, even without the certainty and possibility of returning home. People entered Suka and disappeared there. And this business requires a huge amount of funds, so the support of aristocrats is necessary. The man reports that many considered him a fraud and did not invest, and yet, very soon he will return, having achieved incredible success. Uba reports that in his past life he received a joint investment from commoners, and after that the Expeditions Union became popular. But he is not interested in such things. At this time, the Empress drinks tea and thinks that Lyrica can trust her mother a little more. But I heard the main character say that she didn't even know this and considered Ubu a fraud. The man looked at the girl and the way she rubbed her eyes, then thanked her for crying because of him, and then asked her to give up what she said before, and said that he would return at any cost. At this time, the servants thought that no matter how much they listened, it looked like a scam. The princess pulls out her silver coin and says that she is also investing in him, although not very much. Lyrics realizes that this is the silver coin that she prayed to, dreaming of becoming rich when she lived on the poor streets and told herself that someday she needed to escape from here and live happily with her mother. Hearing this, the man asks in surprise if she actually believes in him. The princess tells him that she believes in him because he is telling the truth. And at this time, the maid says that it was fun, because that is where the lie ends. Bryn thought about why he shouldn't become a theater actor. Then she says that this is the price for listening to an interesting story. Uba understands that even when he was told that the new empress was calling him, he did not hope for anything. And at that time, he thought that he had a gift for speaking. But still, everyone is the same. And they do not even believe him. The man remembers that the Empress believes in him and therefore will invest all her fortune in him. And then he looked at the princess and thought that they are similar mother and daughter. Uba informs that he will definitely bring this matter to success and will still be careful in any way, no matter what it costs him. The next day, the emperor says that he heard that she was deceived. However, the girl objects and says that Uba did not deceive her. His Majesty claims that it is better to experience everything on one's own skin, and then asks if he is right. The gentleman says that he heard that Adel turned her down. The princess explains that she was not turned down, but that His Highness is very busy. Hearing this, the emperor claims that perhaps the child actually needs a person like her. And then he explains that he says Atil acted like a fool. Lyrica asks His Majesty what is bothering him. However, he objects and says that nothing is bothering him. At this point, the emperor was thinking that he thought it was a great way to kill time, but he was getting more and more interested and was in trouble. Then he said it didn't matter because it was just in time. Hearing this, the main character does not understand what he is talking about and then asks. Suddenly, the prince enters the room and the little lady greets His Highness. The young gentleman turns to the emperor and informs him that he has brought the report that His Majesty requested. The emperor invites the prince to go with the girl to the shore of the lake and ride a boat. The boy asks if this is an order. His Majesty replies that it is, in a way. The prince has no choice but to take the girl and go for a walk with her. Lyrica asks if she can take the basket, but the boy assures her that she shouldn't do that. The main character reflects on the fact that even on the walls, the principal went with her without much choice, because His Majesty gave this order. And she thought about how she could use this chance and become friends with him. When they came to the lake, the girl said that it was very beautiful and that she had never actually been to it before. The princess is curious because the lake is in such a place and where it moves from. And suddenly she saw an island in the middle on which there is a small building. When they got into the boat, the main character thought that it was her first time sailing on a boat. Lyrics tells the prince that she did not ask His Majesty to do so, and he replies that he knows. At that moment, the crown prince was thinking that he hadn't made her wait so long, so it was obvious that she couldn't have suggested meeting first. The prince realizes that he is uncomfortable, and yet, unlike what he thought, Togo may be. She is chattering nonstop, and he does not feel hostility. The boy reflects on the fact that he has not heard such a voice for a long time, and therefore he does not even know how to deal with her. Lyrica says that she doesn't know his position, but on this matter, she always wanted to have a brother or sister, and she would be very happy to have, even a cousin, but an older brother. The girl says she doesn't know how he'll feel about it, but she wants to be close to him. Then she asks if it's possible. At this time, the prince thought that no one had ever told him straight to his face and right away that they wanted to be friends with him. And he understands me. Is it really like that to tell something like that to the crown prince? The guy thought that she was an alien or came from another world or another country. He looked at the lady and thought that her eyes were like green turquoise and like the foreign sea he had once seen. Fide reports that his father had many brothers and sisters, and there were 6 of them in total. However, when his father took the throne, he was left alone, and all his brothers and sisters died. The boy reports that this is called death in the imperial palace, and he also drank poison for the first time at the age of 7. The prince reports that he rolled on the stone floor due to excruciating pain, scratching his internal organs and vomiting blood. And he remembers what his father said before he died, that they are descendants of dragons created from fire and air and must overcome difficulties cheerfully. Father said that if he were to fall from such nonsense while being in the center of power, he would only be killed. I heard the girl say that he was probably very sad. At this time, the prince thought that there was not a single person around him who would say such a thing. The lyrics say that His Highness must become stronger. And at this time, the prince remembers the words of his father that he must believe his uncle. And the nanny claimed that he too must become stronger. The boy thought about how the top of power is only outliving its ranks. Until someone is left alone and feeling his uncle's cold gaze on him, he is sure that he too. And then he says that he probably really was sad. Lyric asks if she will die. Hearing this, the prince asks what she is talking about, and the girl explains that she will not die, like his father's brothers and sisters. No, and then says that she will not make him sad, and so he cannot worry. Atel asks if she will always be on his side, and the little lady replies that of course she will, as that is what brothers and sisters are supposed to do. Hearing this, the prince smiled. And then he says that he does not believe such things and offers her to listen that he did not cry even at the funeral of his father in the imperial family. Power makes people like that. The main character says that any person needs these words, and someday these words may seem empty, but it is difficult for him to believe them. And then she says that she needed them and she believes that such a thing actually exists. The young gentleman thought at this time that this girl was not a fool. And then he remembered that he had heard that she would survive in poor areas, and he wondered if the world in this little girl's head could possibly be so colorful. The prince says that he refuses someone like her because it is too burdensome for him. After all, for him, faces and voices like hers are too much like a fairy tale. At this time, a servant approaches them, who addresses His Majesty and says that he cannot walk without protection. The guy asks if this was an order from His Majesty and then says that he always improvises. His Majesty points his finger at the man and says that this is his escort, Knight Rowan. The servant says that he is pleased to meet Her Highness the Princess, and then says that his name is Rowan Gray. When the main character looked at him, at some point a ringing sound rang in her head. The girl understands that she has had a good sense for a long time, and she believes that she survived on the poor streets thanks to it. However, she does not understand what is wrong with this man, and she has a bad feeling that he will definitely harm them. The princess asks how he found them. The knight replies that he asked the chamberlain, and at that moment the girl noticed that he was pulling out his sword, and then, screaming, he turned to His Highness. The boy takes the girl in his arms and he protects her. However, the young gentleman does not understand what is happening and asks why he is doing this. The knight reveals that he had served him for 8 years for this moment, and given their affection, he wanted to send him to the next world at least so that he would not know about it. Rowan says that everything turned out this way in the end. The prince at this time remembers the words of his father that he should not forget that their ancestors are dragons that are created from air and fire and float through the skies. Attell recalls the words of the aristocrats who said that the prince does not even cry at his father's funeral, even though he is Takar. But this actually scares them. At this time, the boy thought that he needed to become stronger. But he does not understand how he should act in such a situation if he is attacked by an adult-trained man with a sword in his hands. And he also does not understand what he should do with the body of a 12-year-old little child without the power of Takarov. At this time, the lyrics address the knight and say that he is a bad traitor, and he is the worst person who believes that he has reasons to do this shamelessly, intend to kill the child. Knight Rowan reports that he can't believe that he made such an ill-bred girl a princess. And this was expected from an emperor of unknown origin. The knight reports that the problem is that he is the head of an entire country, and now a new one will come to it. When Rowan attacked the prince with a sword, he dodged sharply and then hit him with a wine bottle, thereby injuring him. Then the boy took the girl and ran. The prince recalls that when he knocked out a row at the age of 7, when he opened his eyes, there were only servants next to him, and as soon as the time came to finish the work, they left. Uncle said that this time he was fine and everything was fine and didn't even come. He only talked to the chamberlain about how his defenders would be sad if he died. And when they returned to their families, they would be consoled, and they would find a new master and take care of him. Attell was thinking that if he died, his uncle would have children of his own and appoint another crown prince. And he didn't understand why there were so many people who could replace him. The boy understands that everyone in life has a person dear to them, but he was not that person for anyone. And he no longer has a person he could love like that. He thought about how absolutely no one loves him, and he loves no one. And that means he is independent of anyone and he is stronger than everyone. The prince fled with the girl, says that he can become stronger, because he is a descendant of dragons created from air and flame. And even the inability to use abilities will not change this. And that's why he doesn't care. Because he's sure that he'll become stronger even without the dragon's abilities. The boy thinks that if he ever grows up, he'll put a crown on his head and sit in the highest place. The prince believes that he needs neither eternity nor supporters, and together he does not need any of this. The knight grabs the girl by the hair and says that he behaved impudently. The young gentleman took the stick in his hand and tried to defend himself. And at that time he thought that he, being sure that he was behaving like a fool and did not understand why he was defending this stupid girl who had become a burden to him. At this time the prince thought that the world had come to an end, for a thick darkness had descended upon them. But suddenly he heard a voice saying that all these two were fine. And then he saw His Majesty. Attell does not understand where he learned about everything and how he came. And at that time he thought that he could have known all this from the very beginning. The prince asks if he used him as bait. And he doesn't understand what his expression is because he's looking at his nephew who almost died. And he doesn't even know and still calls himself a man. The emperor says that it is too rude to speak thus and in such a way. The young master asks His Majesty to tell him directly whether he used them as bait. And then he states that he wants to know the reason because if he doesn't ask, there will be a misunderstanding. And at that moment, he thought that he might not like such an answer. The emperor replies that he did not use them as bait, and then explains that the picnic was indeed a spontaneous decision. His Majesty says that he came to them because her mother somehow found out about it and made a fuss. And then he says that they were going to come together. But as soon as he found out that Atel was in danger, he flew in first. The emperor turns to the girl and says that her mother is also heading to the ship and probably she can't see it, and then says that in any case she is sailing on the boat. Hearing this, the little lady began to cry. The prince asks if she is hurt, and he wonders if Rowan did anything to hurt her when he grabbed her. The princess ran up to the prince, then hugged him and said that she was very scared. And then she said that everything ended well. Suddenly, they heard the voice of the empress, who called her daughter's name. And at that moment, the prince suggests that the girl go to her mother. The emperor tells the woman that they are both fine. And she says that she is glad because everything is fine, and then hugs the children. The empress asks if the children are okay. The emperor explains that he saved them and asks why she doesn't hug him. Hearing this, the woman asks how he can say such things now. And then they explain that it is psychologically difficult for the children, and therefore they need to leave there as soon as possible. The prince reminds the girl that he said she would not die and then takes her to her room. Atel says that he is sure because someone was behind Rowan. The emperor says that they are investigating this and thinks that he has learned a lot too, and then asks if that is true. And then suggests that he be careful with his surroundings. His Majesty suggests that the prince go to his room to rest, since he is not wounded anywhere. At this point, the empress tells him to wait, and then tells him that she has no right to say anything about raising children, because she was angry that Lyrica made her wait and did not look after her, even though she knew about the possibility of an attack. At that moment, the woman thought that she had no right to say such a thing, and if she had told, Lyric wouldn't have been attacked. And apparently that's why people should do good. The lady understands that compared to that man, and then asks if that is all he can say to the child now, and then says that is why he will not trust people. The emperor does not understand what is being said and asks about it. The empress says that he also learned a lot from this incident, and then asks if it is necessary to say such things now. After all, he himself does not trust anyone, and she does not understand how it is possible to remake a child. Hearing this, the emperor asks how she dared, but the woman offers to wait a minute, and then reminds him that he promised not to swear in front of the children. The empress turns to the boy and says that she will support him until he takes the throne. And then she says that she does not intend to bear the emperor's child. The woman believes that although it seems that he does not care about anything, Ateltos will still put him on the throne, because he is not so stupid, and for her, it is important whether he believes her or not. But she is simply telling him the truth. The prince asks if they are involved in the attempt on his life. The emperor replies that of course they are, and then asks why he wants to do that. At this time, the boy thought that he had that very expression on his face that was asking why he said that. The emperor turns to his wife and suggests that they continue the conversation. Then he says that she says he is distrustful and he does not understand why she would say such a thing. The woman asks him what he thinks and then says she doesn't know. His Highness says there is only one thing he is sure of about her. At this time, the prince sitting behind the door was thinking that everything that had happened up to this point was a misunderstanding. The maid turns to the prince and says that the princess is looking for him. And then he goes to the little girl's room and asks, "What is wrong? Why can't she sleep?" Atel says he was told she was looking for him. The girl explains that she wanted to offer to sleep together. The boy lay down next to her in bed and then asked if it was enough. And she said it was enough. And he asked why she was so happy. Lyrica replies that they sleep like this together, and she would definitely like to try it when she has a brother or sister. The prince strokes the girl's head, and she asks the prince if his highness is afraid. Then she says that she really thinks she will never forget about it. The main character remembers that a shoeshine man she knew once told her that the worst people are those who do bad things without considering them to be so, although the boy asks why she screamed that he was a villain, and then says that she could actually die. The girl believes that he could have escaped when she was caught, but he did not. The guy explains that he is used to this, because this is the 4th time. Hearing this, the girl is surprised, and he thinks that this reaction is also new. The prince says that he thought that His Majesty knew about everything but did nothing, and he thought that he was using him like a knight in chess, and if he died, then it would be good. And if not, then it made no difference. At this time, the boy thought that the emperor had such a face because he really did not understand what he was talking about. And he also did not believe that this inhuman uncle was talking to his aunt about such things. And if the aristocrats saw them, they would fall down from shock. Attell reflects that he really did see his uncle differently that day. The little lady says that she thinks she will be scared even the fourth time. The prince takes the girl by the hand and then says that the feeling of betrayal is stronger than fear. And he does not understand what is the reason that Rowan did this now after the time has passed. After all, he was with him since childhood. The boy says that he won't let go of her hand and then tells her to sleep peacefully. And at this time, he thinks about how he could have gotten rid of him at any moment, and he doesn't understand why Rowan did it now. And he can't believe that the 8 years they spent together turned out to be a lie. The young master wonders what his knight was thinking as he looked at him. Then he suggests that he was probably imagining how he would kill him mercilessly, or that his true master would give the order. At this time, the prince remembers his father's words that he must be strong in order to survive and someday find happiness. Father said that it was obvious that he had a difficult future ahead of him, and he could not believe that he would have to die without being able to leave him anything. But he must not forget that his ancestors were great dragons created from air, and were able to fly through the skies. And they were the strongest and most beautiful creatures in this world. The boy remembers that his father told him not to forget about the feeling of pride, because every time he was having a hard time, he should believe his uncle. However, the prince knows he can't trust a man he's just met. And he doesn't want his father to go away and leave him alone in a world where no one is on his side. The boy knows that he is among these wild beasts who will tear him to pieces as soon as he shows his weak side. And he understands that he is the crown prince, a lonely orphan. The young master reflects that he will become stronger because his father told him so, and because he will survive and be alone forever, but he will never die. And those who are on his side are his family. The prince understands that perhaps this is why one can love and perhaps become a family. And when he looked at the girl, he thought that she had a vulnerable and soft face. And he can't do anything, because he will have to protect her. His Majesty understands that family cannot be replaced by anything, and it is always there. But in reality, nothing has changed in the world. Attell doesn't understand why he then so happily repeats that everything will be all right from now on. And the sound of his breath reaching his ears inside the half-foggy mind is like the movement of a rowing wave. And the emerald-colored sea is just like her eyes. And if you dive into these wide waves, then no one will know about a few drops of tears spilled into the vast lagoon. The guy understands that this is the first time he falls asleep so easily, and that is why he can now cry. After all, in this sea, he cannot become stronger in front of her. The next day, Wrath reports that the Emperor and Empress are still in the bedroom and are holding a meeting there. Hearing this, the little lady says that she will be much more useful than Mother's meeting about Wrath. However, the Chancellor objects and says that she will not attend it under any circumstances, and she can rest peacefully for now and not come to the office. The princess wonders if her mother is okay. Attell says that she may be struggling with her stamina, but Uncle can't be that bad. The girl does not understand why His Majesty is holding a meeting about the hired killer with his mother for so long. And the boy says that she is worrying in vain. The guy sees the guys and asks what they are talking about after making them wait for so long. Then he tells the guy who is with him to meet a girl. Then he calls his name Pi. The blonde boy says that whenever he acts like this, he looks just like His Majesty the Emperor. Then he says that he is Pi and the Sandar family. Aristocrats have 2 names, and they are used for different situations, and the first for friends, and the second for acquaintances in society. And the girl understands that this is a very old-fashioned greeting using only the second name. The main character remembers that Mrs. Glendron told her that now everyone uses only the first name. The girl says that she is pleased to meet Pi from the Sandar family, and tells her that her name is Lyrica. The boy says that it is an honor to know her first name. Pi then meets his friend Bran, and then asks if she knows him. At this time, the girl thought that this guy she saw before. The main character remembers that the teacher said that the Soul family is not aristocrats, and therefore they cannot introduce themselves to members of the imperial family. And the funny thing is that despite this, every aristocrat knows about Soul. Lyrica introduces her closest servant, Bryn Sol, and then tells her that she is a very important person to her. I heard this prince thinking about how someone like Bryn could be an important person for her. While they were walking, the prince asked the girl if she had invested in the swindler's business, and then claimed that he had heard about it, and then said that rumors were circulating about him everywhere, that he was a swindler. The lyrics claim that Uba is not a fraud and is a good person. Attell says that they all seem that way. However, the girl objects and says that they are not, and then explains that if he listens to him, he will understand himself. And at this time, the prince thought that she had been completely fooled. The prince says that Suke is always a gamble and he doesn't understand how he can guarantee 100% that he will return. The main character claims that even the fact that he guarantees, it already means that he is not a fraudster, and he has a lot of other experience. The guy doesn't understand why she's like that because he thinks there are only good people in the world. And then he claims he's sure that the idiot is a scammer. Adil agrees with the girl and then asks what if he continues to insist that it is not so? What will she do next when he turns out to be a fraud? Pai asks why they are fighting over this man, and Bran supports him and says that he doesn't need to fight over this. The prince turns to the girl and claims that if it suddenly turns out that the idiot is a swindler, then in the future, when she invests in something, she will first have to get permission from him. Hearing this, the princess says that if he does not turn out to be a fraud, then please, he should call people she trusts like that. And at that time, the girl thought that since they had a fight, it meant that they would separate in the future. His Majesty took the girl's hand, and she thought that it was normal to argue with Lyrica to about this extent. And that meant everything was okay. The main character says that she is interested in something, and then asks if he has his own lands. And she is interested in what they are like. Attil answers that there is, and then explains that it is cold there, and that is why almost no agricultural crops grow. And because it is the north. At this point, the main character thought that buckwheat is very susceptible to cold, and so maybe she just needs to choose something else to grow. And then she asks if this soil is bad. Pai thinks that although it is not as damaged by frost as the peasants' lands, they are not good territories. And the prince says that one must be an emperor to be able to plow such lands. Hearing this, the girl wondered how cold it was there. After all, before, when she walked barefoot in the snow, she felt as if she was stepping on a blade. And she understands that in the summer you can somehow survive, but the cold is really scary. And she thinks that from this, her nose and fingers might fall off. The prince says that it is very beautiful there in the summer, and Pai claims that the birch forest is especially beautiful, and blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and it is a paradise of various berries, and at such a time you can pick them and make endless jams and syrups. And there is also a lot of honey and nuts, and that is why the bears just go crazy from such deliciousness. The lyrics say that she also tried raspberry jam and it was beautiful, sparkling like a gem and sweet. Attil explains that this is because jam is made with sugar and real raspberries are not that sweet. Hearing this, the girl thought that he had ruined her fantasy. The girl says that she wants to fill a whole bucket, and she doesn't care that there will be bears around. At this time, the prince grabs the girl by the hand and continues to walk faster. However, she does not understand anything and asks where he is taking her. The young gentleman takes the girl in his arms and, screaming, says that she is very slow. At this time, she thought that this was déjà vu, because she was sure that this had happened before. The girl says that she is heavy, but he objects and says that she is not heavy, but much lighter than a foal. Hearing this, Lyric doesn't understand why he compares her to this. The young gentleman announces that they have arrived. And the little lady saw the palace wall. Pai asks His Majesty if he is sure everything will be okay. Lyrica asks if she should grab the vine and climb over it. Attil says that everything is fine and then shows the door and opens it. When the girl went out the door, she saw fields with raspberries. And then, surprised, she asks where they are. The prince suggests that she pick only ripe berries. Lyrica enthusiastically begins picking raspberries. The young gentleman gives the girl the keys and tells her that she is now in charge of this place. The girl is surprised to hear this and then asks if she can really use it. The lyrics address His Highness and say that although she will use it, she suggests that he remain the owner. However, he objects and says that she should use it herself. Hearing this, the girl replies that she will do so if he is a co-owner. The main character understands that she will leave here one day anyway, and therefore it is somehow absurd to become the only mistress. Attil asks why she addresses him as His Highness. After all, she said that they were family. Hearing this, the little girl hugged him, and then they all went together to eat raspberries. Pai turns to the princess and says that she eats deliciously. Hearing this, the girl thinks that she has violated the rules of etiquette. However, The blonde boy explains that he just liked how happy she looked. And at that moment, he thought that he was a fool, because he couldn't tell the princess that she looked happy. And he realizes that if it were another aristocrat, he would take it as an insult. Pi thought he had made a mistake and had lost his temper because she seemed incredibly happy. At this time, the girl thought that she was very tasty, and it was fun. The prince thought that he was glad that the princess did not look for hidden meaning in other people's words, and she believed what was said directly. Pi worries about how the princess will interpret his words and who she will report them to or find a weak point in them. And then he turns to Her Majesty and says that he apologizes because he said something unacceptable. Lyrica objects and says that she also violated etiquette because she shouldn't have asked the same thing. And at that moment, she thought that a real princess wouldn't ask such a question. But the boy assures her that he made a mistake and, without noticing it, relaxed too much. The girl says that she will forgive him if he gives her one berry. Pi says that he will give even 2 or more. And he wants her to forgive him so much that he is ready to pick a whole bucket for her. The prince looked at them and said that he was looking for an excuse. And then he said that he just didn't want to do something every time he would have to ask for forgiveness for it in the future. Pi turns to the princess and says that even though the prince is like this, he asks her to take care of him. At heard this, and Elle angrily asked who he was to ask for him. The lyrics address the maid and say that she will share half with her, since she helped her the most. When the prince went out onto the balcony, he said that he never thought he would be able to go into that garden again. Pi said that the princess doesn't even know how important he is to him, but he still knows how much he values and supports her. Elle reflects on the fact that the previous empress was of low birth. For the sake of his wife, who was unable to overcome the constant condemnation of ministers and the loneliness of noble society, the emperor laid out a small garden inside the palace and built a hut there. And the empress locked herself in that place and never went out into the world. It doesn't matter whether the ruler of the country did the right thing or not, because this place was a small paradise that belonged only to the empress. At this time, the woman reports that a letter has arrived from the empress, and that despicable one, who declared that you want to make him the princess's teacher of curtsies. And she wonders how big an ignoramus one must be to ask a boy to teach this. The noblewoman says that since they have a name, it would be to Takar's advantage to keep in touch with them. Then she suggests taking the opportunity to see how pathetic they are. Hearing this, Feared agrees with his mother. At this time, the main character came into her mother's room. But when she saw her, she thought that while they had not seen each other, her mother began to look incredibly exhausted. The woman asks if her daughter has anything wrong. Nothing bad has happened to her. And at that time, Lyrica thought about how hard it was for her at that meeting. And then she asks if her mother is okay. The mother replies that she is fine, and then explains that she is just tired. And at that moment, the girl thinks that maybe that is why her skin is slightly shiny. And even though she is not the same as always, her mother is beautiful. A woman asks if her mother has become very ugly. One daughter objects and says that her mother is the best in the world. Lyrica asks if the mother has been bitten by the inexhaustible. The woman replies that she thinks there are insects in the room. Then she says that her mother is fine. However, the girl assures her that the marks are very red on her face, and the woman, screaming, says that she is fine. At this time, the girl thought that her mother is very embarrassed by insect bites. And yet, she must help her. Mother reports that during this time, a response came from the Barat family, and they gave their approval to their request for Fiestas Barat to teach her, and then Mother asks if she is sure that everything will be all right. Hearing this, Lyrica says with delight that everything will be fine and reports that she is happy. After all, this means that they will see each other again. Mother asks if it is necessary to choose a new guard for Attil, and then suggests that she change hers at the same time. And she can choose herself, or she can ask the Night Tan. At this time, the girl looked at her mother and thought that the meeting was incredibly tiring. The daughter says that she was told that her mother was with the emperor at a meeting all this time. And the lady explains that it was a one-sided meeting and they still ended the conversation well. Lyrica understands that it must be hard for her mother to work all the time, but she immediately called her. And this is not like her past self. At this time, a maid comes into the room and says that the princess has received a letter from the Barats. The main character saw that the seal on the letter was in the form of a flower. And at that moment, she thought that it was a coat of arms, the ancestor of the family. And that means that the ancestor of the Baratov flower. At this time, the girl thought that it seemed to her as if her feet had left the ground. And she did not understand why she was in such a strange mood, and it seemed as if she wanted to fly up. Lyrica thought that these incredible railings appeared before her eyes at the right time. And as if on purpose, there was no one nearby. and no one was looking at her. Brinsol asks the princess if she is going to slide down them. Hearing this, the girl asks if everything will be okay. Hearing this, the maid asks what could happen. The main character went down the stairs for the first time in her life. And at that time, she felt new emotions. And it was much faster than she imagined, because the stairs did not end. And it also had a sharp turn. At this time, the girl thought that she shouldn't close her eyes at the very end. Suddenly, she heard the voice of the emperor, who said that she had to watch the place where she would land until the very end. And at that moment, he grabbed the girl. The master asks if it is dangerous. The maid answers that if it were not for His Majesty, she would have caught the girl. The emperor says that he did not know that the princess's duties also included cleaning the railings. Hearing this, the girl apologizes, and he asks what she is apologizing for. The main character explains that she slid down the railing, and he says that she cleaned up on it. The emperor explains that he is not interrogating her to make her confess to a bad deed, but simply asking because he honestly does not know what she is apologizing for. Lyrica gives him a letter, and he asks if she went to the empress, and then asks who this Bharat is. The main character explains that she wants to call feared Bharata as a guest. Hearing this, His Majesty says that sometimes even he often becomes interested in what is on the empress's mind. The princess turns to His Majesty and then asks if he liked the result of the meeting. Hearing this, the emperor does not understand what she is talking about and asks about it. The girl explains that she was told that he was holding a meeting with his mother. The gentleman says he was very pleased, and then asks if by any chance she asked her mother the same question. He wonders what she answered. Lyric says that she said that they more or less finished the conversation well. Hearing this, the emperor grabs the girl and asks her to speak honestly. The main character replies that her mother said that it was a one-sided meeting. At this time, Bryn looked at the emperor and thought that this answer had shocked him greatly. His Majesty says that in that case, he should try to conduct the meeting in such a way that both parties are satisfied. And then, smiling, he leaves the room. The girl says that His Majesty is angry. And the maid objects and says that if he were angry, he would have left one of them or even both. And in any case, she thinks that no one should see this. When Lyrica entered her room, she thought that she looked like a guest in her own room because she saw the prince. And then she asks where all her maids went. The guy replies that he kicked them out because they were annoying him with their walking back and forth. Hearing this, the main character thought about poor Bran, since he alone does the work of several servants. And then she offers him to sit down more comfortably. The guy says that he thinks the maids will be scolded because their mistress is a princess, and because of the crown prince, they cannot do their job. Upon hearing this, the girl says that Atil is a more important person than her. The main character understands that this means that it is not allowed to do so from the very beginning, but he entered her room without permission and behaved there like the owner, and then asks if he knows that this is a question of her authority. Hearing this, His Highness objects and then reminds her that she said they were family. The lyrics say that he really does look like an emperor. Hearing this, Atil says that he never thought so, and not by his appearance, but by his behavior. And then he says that it is immediately obvious from his uncle that he is a foreigner, and with the blood of a desert native. And if you think about it, then perhaps this is the only thing they have in common with their uncle. After all, he is an emperor with uncertain origins. Aten knows that his mother is not from a branch of the imperial family, and he is a mixed breed. The girl says that her mother told her to choose a guard for him. Hearing this, the guy objects and says that he doesn't need one. And then he says that the bastard who served him for 8 whole years wanted to kill him. Lyric looks at the prince and says that she is worried about him. The prince says that even if he chooses one, he may seem like the same bastard. And the girl suggests choosing with her, because in fact she has a very good sense. Hearing this, the prince was surprised, and the little lady suggested that he not make such a face, since she already knew what he was thinking. The main character explains that she is incredibly good at foreseeing the bad, and then explains that in fact her mood got worse with the appearance of that bad guy. The girl remembers that when she was little, one kind grandmother gave out candy to children, and all the children liked her, and they followed her, but for some reason, only she did not like her. And so, she did not take food from her and did not follow her. The lyrics invite them to imagine that later, and as it turned out, this grandmother was trafficking in people. The main character reports that there was another man whom she did not like, but was popular with the children, and he gave them pocket money for expenses. And later, she heard that he treated the children badly. Hearing this, the prince says that he doesn't know for sure, but he thinks he starved them and beat them, and then asks if that's true. The princess says that she once went without a paycheck, and that means she avoided all the bad guys, except when she ignored her gut instinct. Because she can't pick the best ones, but she can avoid the worst. At this time, the prince abruptly embraced the girl, and this time says that she should subtract 1 raspberry. The little lady says that she will subtract 2. As befits a small child, she has a high temperature and a small frame. Even when she is angry, she is not at all scary, but sweet and weak. It's been a long time since serfs disappeared from the empire. Only officially, because they learned that formally free people working on rented land is much more efficient. Slavery may be banned, but it still exists. The lyric asks the prince if he will go with her to choose the guard. And the gentleman answers that he will go, but since he is busy today, he will go later. The prince orders to show the report on the capital's security for several years. At this time, the main character thought that she forgot to tell the prince that the first guest from outside would arrive. And judging by the emperor's reaction, she thinks that she cannot show him to just anyone in the palace. The girl thought that since Attil was her older brother, she wanted to tell him. Lately, Lyrica has been visiting the library often to design a beautiful secret garden with a raspberry field and to surprise Attil and return the key to him. The princess realizes that she may need a professional gardener, but she needs to know something too. And he needs to be able to keep secrets, so she studies. The main character reads one book after another. And suddenly, she saw magical records that make the girl's hearts flutter. And this book interested her. Lyrica opened the book and saw a way to create a talisman for a loved one and how to make it. The book says what to do if you want to dream of your loved one. The main character thought that she just wanted to keep the secret and therefore would quietly borrow the book for a while and just read everything and then return it. The girl realizes that she is so excited that she brought this book to her room. However, she reflects on the fact that these are magical records, and she does not understand why they are in the imperial palace at all. In the evening, when the girl was alone in the room, she was reading a book and thought that she would miss what she had read a little earlier. After all, she was interested in how to create a talisman for her loved one. In the books, it is written that it is possible to save from danger the one whom she likes. At this time, the girl thought about what needs to be done for Attili talisman, and for this, you need a glass flask, clean water from a well, and a white scarf, and also fresh medicinal herbs and zalotnik. Lyrica realizes that she has never seen a gold coin before and wonders if there is a way to earn one. The main character thought that she wanted to get paid for cleaning His Highness's office because she does it because she likes it. The girl remembered that she has Uba and she wants him to return safely. She prays to save him from danger and help him not to fall under the influence of bad things. And also that his body will be safe and many, many good things will happen to him. Lyrica prays for help in obtaining a gold coin. The next day, the emperor approaches the girl and offers to buy her something tasty and then gives her a gold coin. His Majesty says that the girl is not energetic because that is why she eats little. Hearing this, the main character objects and says that she ate 2 whole sausages in the morning. And the gentleman says that is why she has nothing but bones. The emperor gives the girl some jewels and tells her to buy herself some goodies and eat. Seeing this, the girl asks why he has jewels in the box. And he answers that dragons like to accumulate mountains of jewels. Lyrics informs His Majesty that her purse is about to break. Heard, it is the emperor stroking her head, and at that time she thought that these touches have become much softer than before. And she understands that although awkward, but confident expression of love. The princess looked at the gold coins, emeralds, and diamonds and thought that today she was rich. The girl took the green emerald and said that it was just like a summer garden, and the sapphire was similar to the color of Attilius's eyes. The maid tells the princess that she also has a pearl that looks very high quality and is very beautiful. At this time, the main character thought that she had received a gold coin, and now she needs to look in the book and start preparing to make a talisman. When Lyrica looked under the pillow, she saw that the magical notes had disappeared. And the maid reported that she had the book she was looking for. Bryn says the title on the cover was too flashy, so she decided to change it. She also says she has no idea where she got the book. The maid says that the magic notes that will make the girls' hearts flutter, and this book was popular among young ladies a few years ago. And in this book, she can find out how many boys have unrequited love for her by fortune-telling on flowers. And also with the help of the book, you can find out the compatibility of 2 people by fortune-telling by names. After all, these are approximately such cute children's fortune-telling. Everyone who should know this book knows that it literally says on the cover that she has a man she likes. Bryn turns to the lady and says that she will take her secret to the grave with her, and therefore suggests that she has nothing to worry about. And at that time, she thought that she does not believe that the princess already likes someone, because she is worried whether she is too young for this. The maid understands that her princess is not like all the others. Because she is smart, therefore, that person could be an adult and it could be the chancellor. And it cannot be such little ones as young Master Sandar or Bran. The maid turns to the princess and tells her that it will be difficult for her to complete the spell alone, so she will help her. Then she asks which one she was thinking of. Lyrica says she wants to make a talisman. Then she says she was worried about the gold coin, but His Majesty gave her a whole bunch. So now she thinks it's okay. The princess says that she will make it for Attil and His Majesty, and also for her, Bryn. Hearing this, the maid does not understand whether the princess really believes that this book contains a real magic spell. And she thought that their princess is a cutie, and does not yet know what love between a man and a woman is. The maid hugs the princess and says that she will help her with everything. And at that time, she thought that at this age it is enough for a little lady to simply receive love. The main character read a letter which said that Feed could come to the palace at any time. Bryn claims that in that case, she really should find security as soon as possible. And at that time, she thought that, most likely, he will not do stupid things of members of the imperial family right in the palace. But still, this is the same Bharat. The maid turns to the princess and says that she cannot meet with a guest from outside without protection. Lyrica approaches the prince and offers him to find himself a guard, and then reminds him that she said she would choose one for him. The girl saw that the prince was tired and then asked if maybe she should call him another day. Hearing this, Pai says that perhaps it would have been better that way. And then he says that he doesn't know what kind of wind blew, but he suddenly wanted to review all the documents about the order in the capital, and that's why they didn't sleep all night. The prince claims that this is nonsense and then announces that he is ready to go. Attil turns to the princess and asks why she is walking behind him, and he wonders if she is a servant. The lyrics explain that he is simply fast, and that is why she cannot keep up with him. However, the boy objects and says that she is slow, and then asks if she can ride a horse. The girl replies that she has never ridden a horse and has never even seen people who do it. The princess says that horses can be found while walking in the park, but she did not have time. And then the young gentleman says that it would be better for her to learn to ride. And then he takes the girl in his arms and says that now is a good time to do so. The servant addresses His Highness and the princess, and then informs him that the captain is still in the office and therefore is not here now. Hearing this, Attil thinks that they will not be able to choose a night today, and then suggests that they can come next time. However, the little lady objects and says about Tom that they will wait. At this time, the main character thought that if not this time, then next time the prince might change his mind. As they waited, the princess watched the knights, and at that time she thought that now she knew what the weapons of the Imperial Guard looked like. Suddenly, Lyrica saw the knight who found her on the street and brought her to her mother. She approaches him and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. The knight greeted Her Highness the princess, and she asked if Tan had accidentally said anything about her. The guy remembered and said that he had already been told all this. The princess comments on the fact that he is dressed in civilian clothes and then asks if this means he is on vacation. The guy replies that he will go to his hometown. Hearing this, the girl thought that Lob just like then. And at this time, she thought that she had a strange feeling. And she does not understand why everything was fine until this moment. The main character doesn't understand what to do. And then she gets worried. He saw an agitated girl, Tell, and asked what this idiot told her. The girl objects and says that he got it all wrong. And at that moment, she thought that everything was fine, because there was a young gentleman behind her. And she realized that maybe the problem was that he was going to his hometown. The princess turns to Lob and then asks if it is possible for him not to go there and offers him to become her escort knight. The guy was surprised to hear this and then asked if she was serious. The girl explained that of course she was serious, and if he didn't want to, then nothing could be done. At this time, the main character thought that the ringing had become quieter, and canceling his departure was the right answer. Lao says that he is no longer a knight, and therefore. And at this time, the girl says that even if not, and then asks if she can't just hire him. The princess says that she is not sure how much she can pay, but Attil asks in surprise why she would hire this idiot, since he is Wolf. And judging by the fact that he was going to come back, he is simply incompetent. At this time, there was a misunderstanding between the guys, and the princess suggests that His Majesty stands still, and he says that she just doesn't know something. The lyrics address Laub and say that even if he is not a knight, and if he does not mind that she pays, and then says that she wants to hire him. The girl shows him the pearl and says that it is his advance. And then she says that it is a very high-quality product, and it is incredibly valuable. And it is a super precious item, which will cost a fortune. Laos says that he will do it. And at that moment, the main character thought that this unpleasant feeling had completely disappeared. Lyrics understands that she got rid of the feeling for the first time. The guy tells her that he will serve her faithfully and truly. And at that time, the girl could not think that she could change him. After all, it turns out that you cannot avoid this feeling, but change it. At this time, the main character thought that she felt completely safe. Tan asks if anyone can explain the situation to him. Then he says that the candidates can only be shown to His Highness the Crown Prince first. Hearing this, the young gentleman says that Lyrica will choose. And the girl claims that she has a good sense. The young knights lined up in a row, and the main character looked at each of them intently. Then she pointed her finger at two knights. The young gentleman says that if she likes two, she can hire them both. Then she says that it is good to work in shifts. Until if they have finished everything, then he will go, since business calls him. At this time, the main character thought that these other knights were not bad people. Well, they just did not give off the same call as Lauba, and they did not seem like very good people. The commander of the Imperial Guard asked the princess if she knew that Laub left the Knights detachment today, and he wonders if everything was okay with him. Lyrica explains that it was all very bad because of the danger. Her back was sweating. But it was because he said he was going to his hometown, and when she hired him, everything was fine. Tan offers to listen to him and then says that she and he have the same homeland. And then asks what happened there. And then says that he could not even think that she would take him to her. The knight suggests to the princess that if anything happens, she should tell him about it. And then he says that he will support her in absolutely everything. The captain of the Imperial Guard sincerely thanks the protagonist for hiring Lauba. Heard in this maid says that he will actually support them. And since he is the head of the knights, this is very important to them. The main character understands that it is very rare for the head of a guard detachment to be completely on someone's side. At this time, the maid reflects on the fact that their princess, who, as if nothing had happened, earns such connections and she is cool. Pai addresses His Highness and then asks why he speaks to the princess in such a way. Hearing this, the young master does not understand what he is talking about and then asks. The boy explains that he is asking because he is saying words that could hurt her. However, the prince does not understand what and when he said it. Pai explains that he did it every day, and then reminds that earlier he asked why she followed him like a servant, and then why she could not ride a horse. The blonde boy claims that it's all true. And if his original goal was to offend her, he wouldn't have said anything. But since he hasn't slept for several nights because of the princess's words alone, he suggests that he think about what would happen if the princess spoke to him like that. Pai explains that the princess can address him as if he were walking in front of her, as if he had become her master, and then asks if she was really upset. The fair-haired boy claims that the princess is kind and therefore simply ignored his words. However, if he continues to act like this, someday the young lady will be offended, and therefore he suggests that the young master be careful. Hearing this, Atel thought that he was wrong and would try to correct the situation. Pai thinks that if he is so worried, he can give the princess a gift, and it is a pony with a beautiful, creamy mane. The fair-haired boy says that the princess is still little, and therefore he thinks it would be good if she moved around the spacious garden of the Palace of the Sun on a horse. At this time, the main character tells Tan that a guest will arrive tomorrow, and then says that she will drink tea for the first time, inviting a guest from outside. Explains that she was in a hurry with the choice of a guard knight. At and L reflects on the fact that he is sure that she will like this gift. And he also wants the weather to be fine tomorrow, and this gift will bring only happiness. The next day, Feared arrived and greeted the supreme Nara Takar. Then he knelt down and kissed the girl's hand. At this time, the main character thought that for the first time, a guest from the palace came to her, and this is the son of the Duke of the Barat Feared family, and he came to teach her to curtsy. And for the sake of this day, some exchanged letters, and she hastily appointed a guard knight for herself. Lyrica therefore wanted to prepare properly without making any mistakes, because their last meeting was incredible. The main character looked at the guy and thought that he had a truly luxurious appearance. And besides, he didn't look as disheveled as last time, and now he was even wearing a suit. The princess asks the boy in surprise why he is not curtsying today. Feared explains that he is formally greeting her, as he did not think that she would actually invite him. The girl thanks the guy for agreeing to come. He asks the main character in surprise why she doesn't hire a knight from the guards, and then he says that he is sure that they will talk about it behind their backs. The guy reports that the aristocrats will be interested in why the princess couldn't assign a guard to herself, And they will also say that she may be discriminated against because she is adopted. Hearing this, the main character says that even so, she does not stop being Takar. And at that time, she thought that even though she is under contract, she is still a princess. Feared agrees with the girl and says that she is right, since the squeak of mosquitoes means nothing to the dragon. The lyrics say that the dragon will also be very bothered by mosquitoes, and then says that if the matter concerns the imperial family, then she knows almost nothing, but thinks that His Majesty will sort everything out properly. The guy turns to the princess and says that she is incredibly simple-minded, and he can't believe that Takar is saying this in front of a man from Bharat. And at that moment, he thought that he was sure that if the Duke of Bharat heard these words, he would kill her, tear her to pieces. Feared turns to the girl and says that she still doesn't have a companion. Hearing this, the girl replies that she has Bryn. She, like a guy, says that she is a servant. The fair-haired guy says that a companion for a member of the imperial family is a person of about the same age, with whom one can discuss the latest news of noble society or discord between families. Feared say that in that case, she should know about the rumors that are going around, and her mother. Hearing this, the main character asks about whether she really got drunk again and did something outrageous, and was caught doing it. And then she says that she knew that her mother would return to alcohol. The princess thought that her mother could not give up her habits. However, the boy assures her that this is not true. Then he points to the cake and says that it is a new dessert that did not exist before Her Majesty the Empress made it popular. The guy says that, except for him, all the desserts that appear in the Empress's salon attract sensational popularity with their noble, not too sweet taste and excellent compatibility with tea. And even the cook of their family tries to repeat her recipes. Feared that's not all, because they say that the style of the flowing dress of Her Majesty the Empress, shown at the wedding, also received an influx of orders in all the capital's ateliers. And he heard that if you order it now, you will have to wait a year. The young gentleman says that he also knows a few things. Not long ago, she put in her place a marquis's wife, who is known in noble society for her arrogance, and everyone was very happy. The guy says that the most surprising thing was that recently she calmed the mare on which the lady from the family of Baron Aaron was riding. And they say that if the Empress had not been there, something truly terrible would have happened. And he heard that the groom of that lady thanked the Empress many times. Hearing this, the main character was surprised because she did not know so much information about her mother. And then she says that her mother is the most beautiful woman in the world, and she has become so affectionate that it even surprises her. The girl reflects on the fact that her mother is still her mother, and she must always look after her. Feared asks the princess how about him as a companion, and then says that after talking to her for a little while, it becomes clear that she does not have someone with whom to discuss everything. And for the sake of establishing a friendly connection with another family or the embodiment of their desires on the part of the aristocratic family. In any case, they want to become companions of those in power for different reasons. The princess says that apparently she does not have enough power yet, and that is why they do not offer her such things, because she is not yet a beginning power holder. The guy heard this and didn't understand what she was talking about, and at that moment he thought about how he almost said it out loud. And he understood that the thing was that only she herself couldn't realize it. That the person so desired by everyone, like the Empress, was she. Feared reflects on the fact that the princess of poetry is this girl who knows absolutely nothing. At this time, the main character thought that on the poor streets, she was so busy working that she had no time to make friends. And at this time, she does not understand what to do after she gathers aristocratic friends. The girl understands that she really likes Bryn, but she is with her because the maid is close to her and therefore does not play with her as a friend. The main character reflects on the fact that someday, when she becomes an outstanding princess, there will probably be people who want to become her companions. The lyrics address the guy and ask him to teach her how to curtsy. After all, she understands that this will be the first step to becoming an outstanding princess. When the girl looked at the guy who was curtsying, she wondered how one could greet so beautifully. And then he asked, "What is Her Highness thinking about when she curtsies?" The girl replies that she thinks about how much to bend her knees and the angle of the incline, and whether it would be more elegant if she did it more slowly. Feared suggests that she put an end to such confusing thoughts, and then says that she should think about what is most beautiful in this world. At this time, Pai asks the master if it is possible to go to the girl's room like this without warning. Hearing this, His Majesty says that he is interested in, and then asks when he warned about such a thing. The prince says that he said to prepare a gift, and he thinks that he doesn't do that often. and therefore he needs to surprise Lyrica. Hearing this, Pi thought that His Majesty certainly did not come to apologize for the thoughtlessly spoken words, and first wanted one thing, and then another. Until I am sure that the princess will like the gift very much. At this time, Feared asked the girl to repeat that she is the most beautiful in the world. And then the little lady reluctantly repeats after him. The young gentleman looked at the girl and said that it seemed to him that she did not believe it at all. And the princess answered that it was not so. And she understood that she did not have such beautiful blonde hair as her mother. However, Feared. He claims that the princess is beautiful, and with hair the color of wood, she looks like a forest fairy. And her eyes are like Lake Rudin, whose surface reflects the sunlight. The guy turns to the little lady and tells her that this is why she can be confident. And then he asks her to try again, screaming that she is the most beautiful in the world. Lyrica repeats after him, and at the same time thinks that this is a new kind of torture. After all, she didn't think that she would say this in front of a person who is more beautiful than her. Feared thinks that the princess will curtsy to only a few people anyway, and then maybe she has a reason why she needs to learn it like this. The main character explains that all this is because she wants to show it to those few. And at this time, she introduces her mother, who says that her daughter is really elegant, and the emperor says that he did not expect it. And now he is pleased to look at it. The little princess thinks that she is not beautiful, and in this world she is the sweetest and most charming. And she understands that this also embarrasses her, but she still thinks she is sweet. And she hears these words every day when she talks to her mother. The princess says that she can do it because she is sweet and beautiful, and then curtsies. The girl looked at the guy and then asked in surprise if she had done something strange. The boy replies that she looked like a robin. Then he calls her a lovely Princess Robin. The little lady looks at the boy and says that he looks like a piece of handmade silver. Feared says that he really wants to become her companion. Bryn comes into their room and says that they must be having a hard time, so she offers them some cold juice that she just made. At this time, the prince enters the room and suggests to the servants that he may not notify them that Her Highness has arrived. The driver opens the door and he saw the princess with the guy. Feared greets His Highness the Crown Prince. And at this time, Atel asks what this bastard is doing here. The guy explains to His Highness that he received an invitation, and the lyrics confirm his words and say that it was she who invited him. The prince angrily asks how he dared to seduce his little sister. And he wonders if he twirled his tail in front of her and coaxed her with his pretty face and sweet words. Feared explains that the princess was the first to ask him to come to her, and when the prince heard this, he pushed him. When Lyrica saw Toe, she wanted to go and calm the prince down, but Lore held her back and told her that she shouldn't approach him at this time. Atel suggests that the guy disappear before he wants to check if those rumors are true, and then calls him Baratov's masterpiece. At this time, the main character thought that everything in the room was shaking, and she assumed that it was an earthquake. Suddenly, she realized that it was not the floor that was shaking, and that the objects were reacting to something. And she did not know what it was, but she understood that this was not possible. The lyrics address the prince and suggest that he stop doing this, as she invited this guest. The girl informs him that she will not forgive him if he continues to be rude to Feared. The princess claims that she is responsible for Feared's safety, and therefore she asks that His Highness leave the room. Atel asks the little lady if she even knows who this idiot is. At this time, Bryn turns to His Highness the Crown Prince and says that this room of the White Dragon is the princess's residence, and therefore she asks for forgiveness for interfering in the conversation of the respected gentleman, but she can no longer tolerate rude treatment of the princess. The prince says that if she likes him so much, then she can do as she knows. And then she leaves. Lyrica thought that she was scared because she didn't think that Atil would decide to hit him with his fist. The girl turns to Feared and asks if he is okay. Then she says that she will order a doctor to be brought immediately. However, the boy assures her that there is nothing serious and she does not need to call a doctor. The guest says that it is more important to him whether Her Majesty is okay, madam. And then he says that because of him, the princess had a big fight with His Highness. Feared asks if he was one of those she wanted to curtsy to. Then he smiles. At this time, the main character looked at the guy and thought that he was smiling as if everything would be perfect if he just repaired the broken parts. And then the girl says that a simple verbal quarrel does not make them enemies, and it is obvious that Atil did wrong. But since he is her guest, she must take care of him. The lyrics tell the guy to sit down and then say that if he doesn't want to call a doctor, she'll just put some medicine on his wound. Feared looked at the girl and thought that it was the first time he saw her like this, because she was just a little angry. And then he asked if the princess was okay. The guy says that nothing terrible happened, because during training you can get hurt even more. Hearing this, the girl objects and says that this is not training, and being beaten is painful and scary. The main character remembers that earlier, in order to protect someone dear to her, she could do nothing but pray to the Lady Star for her wish. However, the girl understands that now everything is different, since she rules the room of the White Dragon. And of course, with great power comes great responsibility. But she allowed this to happen to her guest. Lyrics thought about how she doesn't want and won't let Feared just go away. And then it's reported that even if he says everything is fine, she doesn't like it at all. Feared offers the princess to listen to this, and then says that in his world, such wounds mean nothing at all. After all, the Bharat's successors are trained to endure absolutely any pain. And only in the forest of the Imperial Palace can they rest at the roots of the family. The guy says that she flew there on her luxurious and heavy umbrella, and then he says that everyone says that this girl might be a villain and she is a low-born girl from the poor streets and might actually be an aristocrat. And also the Lord says that it is impossible to bewitch a cruel tyrant like that unless she is a villain, because everyone knows that a tyrant's partner is a villain, and the daughter of a villain is also a villain. Feared believes that he knew that everything around him was a lie, because as a child he believed all such statements. Because for a small child, parents are everything, and he thought that the blame for all his suffering, which in fact lies with him. The boy remembers that when he opened his eyes, his mother told him that Crown Prince Atil was to blame for all his suffering, Takar, and he is the reason why he experienced the torture and death of his father, and why it seemed like it was all because of him, and why he hated the prince so much. However, on his 10th birthday and on the day of the Crown Prince's school desk, when he first saw him, his mother said that he was his enemy. Hearing this, Feared let out a feigned laugh, and although he couldn't really laugh because of his fear of his mother, a simple child whose eyes were filled with excitement and whose body was shaking with anger, and a look that pierced the inside of his soul like a mirror, the guy remembers that he then found out that it was not this kid who was causing him pain, and he was wondering because of whom all this was happening. Feared reflects on the fact that the reason for his torment is because of the desire to become Tokar, because of the desire to become the best, and she even entered into his hated Bharat family of direct relatives of dragons. The boy says that his mother was very happy when she gave birth to a son because she wanted to prevent him from gaining power, and she thought that finally the Bharats would be able to become the best. And then the doctor told her that her son was a masterpiece, which the family had been waiting for hundreds of years. Mother had insisted all this time that the moon of the empire should be chosen from their lineage, but they made such lowly ones the empress and princess, and also gave such despicable ones the name Takar. Feared says that when this masterpiece broke, he wonders what expression his mother had on her face. And so the little princess most likely does not know what great hopes he had for her, because for the first time he saw the man his mother hated so much. The guy says that he heard that the enemy of his enemy is a friend, and he was looking forward to seeing how incredible she is. The fair-haired guy says that when they actually met, to be honest, it was not what he expected, and he thought that his mother had deceived him again. And he doesn't care what she is interested in and thinks it will be good to meet him again. Feared thought about how he felt like this choice was a mistake. And those eyes of hers that he saw right in front of him were so pure that they seemed transparent, and her fingertips were warm to the point of melting. Lyrics tells him that everything is ready and then asks if it hurt a lot. The guy replies that everything is fine and explains that he is used to this, that in their estate no one would be bothered even by a punch. Suddenly, the young master felt a strange, too sweet smell. And then he took the girl's hand and told her not to come near him and not to touch him. And at that time, he thought that his fingertips were numb and his head became hot, and he could not think of anything. The main character thought that after the conflict with Attilius Feared, then left with a big smile on his face, and also wished her a good day. At this time, the girl thought that she did not understand why Attil hated Feared so much. And considering his reaction, she thought that they should not meet again, and she did not understand why this matter made her worry. Lyric asks the prince why he hates Feared. Upon hearing this, he says that she is asking this directly to the person who came to apologize, and then tickles her cheeks. Attil says that if he dies, that idiot will take the place of the emperor. Hearing this, the girl asks the prince not to die. However, he calms her down and says that he is not going to die. His Highness explains that his deceased father was his uncle, and if you leave him out, that idiot is the closest to the imperial palace. And besides, the Bharats have long been connected to the palace through the Bharats, And if you look at it from a legitimacy standpoint, he might even be closer since his mother was barely an aristocrat. I heard Pi objecting and saying that now the next one after him is Princess Lyrica. The surprise girl says that she just needs to become a family with the Takars, but she doesn't even have that kind of influence. Pi explains that being a Takar with influence is best, but the most important thing is to belong to that family. Hearing this, the main character says with delight that this means she is now second. At this time, the servant announces that he has arrived and brought a pony with him. And His Highness turns to the princess and says that this is her gift. At this time, the main character thought that now she understood why he told her to come in a comfortable uniform. Attell apologizes for yesterday and then reports that he was rude to her guest. The lyrics say that she has already forgiven him and is grateful for his apology. The prince asks the girl what she will call her gift. The main character looked at the pony and said that she had a star on her forehead, and so she would name her Venus. The prince offers the girl to try riding him. The lyrics say that she has never tried it and she is even a little scared. Attell puts the girl on the pony and then says that when she tries, she will learn right away. And then the little horse galloped away with the princess. Pi says that they remembered that Bharat was pushed aside because of the princess. Then most likely their family understood it like that right away. Because they are serious about the throne. And so if the Bharat family wants to take the throne now, they will have no choice but to get rid of the princess. The guy says that if he thinks about it again, there is an option to marry Feared to the princess. And the Duke will not leave it like that, and Pi just made an assumption. And then asks if he agrees. Because politically, it was a great move. Attell claims that he is mistaken and that they will probably be afraid that the Bharat blood will be stained. At this time, Lore suggests that the princess straighten her back and says that she can speed up a little. Lyrica asks him why he stopped her yesterday when she was stopping a fight between them. Lore explains that it was because he thought it was dangerous, and he thought that after that they would definitely accept her wish to reconcile them. Lore says that if she tried to stop them from the start, His Highness the Crown Prince would have gotten even angrier. Hearing this, the girl asks why, and he replies that His Highness loves her very much and believes that she is on his side, and he would not tolerate it if she took the side of another person. But after the exchange of blows, most likely, they calm down a little. The lyrics say that since the fight started in the White Dragon's room, she should have done it anyway, and then asks what would have been the best course of action. Lore says that in such moments she can use him, and if she told him to figure it out, he would, no matter how. The princess says that he is her guard, a knight, and then asks if it is possible to ask him for such a thing. Lore claims that he still wants to become not only her shield, but also her sword. At this time, the main character thought that she could not believe that adults were speaking to her so carefully, and she understood that she was still a child, and therefore, usually, they were always quite free in their expressions with her. The girl understands that her guard is very cautious, and maybe because she hasn't treated him like a friend yet. And in fact, she brought Lob only to get rid of an unpleasant premonition, and couldn't even imagine that he and Bryn are close. And maybe he knows about it too, and that's why he is so cautious. Lyrica apologizes to Lauba, then says that he did a good job and informs her that she will henceforth consider him her sword and shield. And if she has any difficulties, she will definitely call him. At this time, the young man thought that perhaps an outstanding princess is not someone who does everything well on her own. And then he says that he will return even from the end of the world for her. Lab thought that this was the little lady who trusted and relied on those close to her, and who was able to think and make wise decisions. When the princess returned to the palace, the service announced that Her Majesty the Empress had arrived. Hearing this, the girl was delighted. Mother says that as soon as she heard that Lyra's knight had been chosen, she came to her. And then she angrily thought who dared to put this one next to her daughter. Mother explains that she has come because she has something to tell her. Then she says that the new knight chosen is not suitable for her, and that she has a more suitable candidate in mind. At this time, the woman thought that Laub Wolf was a bastard who, in his past life, for some reason, was expelled from the knightly squad, and after returning to his homeland, went crazy there, and then became the target of bounty hunters and died. The lady ponders the fact that she does not know the reason because of what happened. The then head of the family, Tan Wolf, gave up his post as the head of the night squad and went to the province. And the Barats considered it just nonsense to entertain everyone and did not even bother to inquire about the reason. And she does not understand how they dared to introduce such a monster to her daughter. The Empress explains to her daughter that her mother wants to choose a guard for her herself. However, the little lady objects and says that she would like Lob to continue guarding her. At this time, the mother thought that her daughter had refused her, And she did not understand why Lyrica, who had always obediently followed her words, suddenly behaved this way. The Empress asks for forgiveness and then says that she is worried about her daughter, since this man is not even a knight, and she does not understand why he is next to her. The lyrics talk about her understanding what her mother is talking about and then claim that she is taking Laoba. This woman was surprised when she heard this, because her daughter believed this damn monster more than her. And at that moment, she thought that this would not work, and she should be more decisive. Mother says that she herself will exchange him for another person, and she will do all this for her sake. Having heard this girl suggests that Mother listen to her. The woman says that if her daughter doesn't listen to her, then she doesn't like her. And then she turns around and leaves. At this time, Bryn asks for forgiveness and turns to Her Majesty the Empress, and then asks if the princess can at least hear the reason why she is doing this. Hearing this, the woman thought that her Lyrica was still stronger than she thought. And she knew that her daughter still couldn't trust her completely, because considering what she had done, it was obvious and trust would accumulate and appear in the future. If she started working on it right now, the Empress asks that despite this, she still thinks that her mother cannot be relied upon. And at that moment, she thought that all this suffering was only for her sake, but she does not even understand this. Mother recalls her past life, in which she turned to her daughter and said that this was all for her sake. What difference does it make that the Count is over 70 years old and claimed that her daughter is stupid because she doesn't understand that she will become the Count's wife? And the woman says that it's unbelievable, because Lyrica Vance is from the poor areas, and the Earl's wife, and she doesn't understand how anyone could achieve such success. And then she asks if it weren't for her mother, who would have taken such pains to take care of her future. Mother claims that Mother's success is her success, and her success is her mother's success. And if, with the help of the Count through the marriage arrangement and military force, they succeed in the coup, seizing power in the Bharat Duchy will no longer be a distant dream. At this time, the Empress thought that although she said that she loved her and hugged and kissed her, and also dressed her in good clothes and fed her good food, her behavior had not changed, and she was now exactly the same as in her past life. The lyric turns to her mother and asks if she is okay. The woman asks her daughter if she will talk to her alone for a while. And then she says that she will not force her knight to leave just because she wants to. The mother, turning to her daughter, says that, most likely, she also has thoughts on this matter, but she has put too much pressure on her opinions. The Empress asks if Lyrica can tell why she chose Laoba and why she wants to continue to be with him. Hearing this, the main character asks for forgiveness and then says that she made a mistake and behaved like a fool again. Mother claims that she does not want to do this, but does not understand why she let her hurt her. And at that time, she thought that she decided to change everything this time. After all, to understand that different little things actually change according to her desire. But she does not understand why being a mother is so hard. The Empress reflects on the fact that she had already begun to think that she was doing well, but again she had behaved like a fool. And she had already thought for a moment that maybe she was not so bad, but she understands that this is not so at all. Mother says that she loves her daughter very much, and she is more precious to her than anyone else in the world. At that time, she thought that at least this time she wanted to see with her own eyes how she would become an adult and loved and like a flower, blossoming under the rays of the sun. The Empress claims that even if she leaves her because she hates her, and even if she doesn't listen to her and starts creating problems, her mother will continue to love her. And at that time, she thought about what she needs to do to become a good mother. The woman thought that she shouldn't cry like that in front of her child, and then she said that no matter what happened, she would never hate her. Then she asked for forgiveness because her mother was crying and looked very pathetic at that moment. The lyrics address the mother and say that she loves her very much and will not leave her no matter what happens, and then hugs her. The daughter suggests not to say that she hates her mother because it makes her sad to hear. The Empress apologizes for not being able to understand her feelings a little better. And then she says that she always regrets being such an imperfect mother. After all, her daughter did nothing wrong, and if anyone is to blame, it is her stupid mother. Mother thought that this shameless wolf family was to blame, and since things had gone this way, this time she was obliged to extract the maximum benefit from them. At this time, the Emperor came into the Empress's room and saw that she was crying, and he thought that she was so weak to cry because someone was torturing her. Takar tells her that he heard something happen to Lyrica during the day, and then asks if they are done yet. She tells him that they have settled everything and that her daughter is happy. And then she thinks about how she allowed Laobu to continue guarding her. The emperor claims that she opposed it because it was dangerous, but she herself agreed so easily. The young lady explains that it was because she wanted to respect Leary's opinion, and besides, she heard her reason for it, that she had a good feeling. The empress says that if you think about it, even when they lived in poor areas with their family, nothing really bad ever happened, and even considering that she walked the streets drunk, and there were still no troubles. And for her, this is amazing. The woman says that maybe that's why she was convinced by her daughter's words, and she decided to trust her and let her do it the way she wants. The empress explains that she was truly scared because she was very worried and afraid that the bastard would harm her daughter. And that's why she got angry at her, because she was very scared. The young lady doesn't understand why, as soon as she stands in front of Lyrica, she can't control her emotions. And then she remembers that she asked her daughter if she wanted her mother to lose her again and wander in the darkness. The woman is worried because she cannot believe that she took out her anger on the one she was worried about, and therefore she hates herself. His Majesty calms her down and says that people are all like that, and even if they are scared and sad or disgusted, they get angry. And that is why almost all people live, and only later realize their true emotions. And then he claims that although she looks at them objectively, and for him it is funny, the emperor says that this is a virtue, and if she gets angry when she is afraid, she is in a better position than the enemy. However, the woman objects and says that her daughter is not her enemy, and she feels as if she does not know her own daughter at all. The woman realizes that she has only just learned that she can hardly go out with the parasol she gave her because it is too heavy, and then claiming that one cannot become a parent like him, Alteos. The emperor touches the lady and says that she is truly fearless and not afraid of him at all. And then he says that she is not ordinary, because some people think that the most important thing is that he is a dragon and think that he will simply break his promise and kill them. And he believes that such people exist too. The lady tells him to stop treating people so damn badly. And then she says that since she got everything she was supposed to from the wolf family, she should stop crying, because she knows they assigned a dangerous man to her daughter because of their family. And that's why she asked to make dire wolf Laogair's friend. Hearing this, the emperor was surprised, and then said that he did not even know whether she was generous or something else. At this time, Mother thought about how Dire Wolf was famous in her past life for her unusual character, and that she was a knight with abilities and was among the top 3 in the empire. And she was the one who was using the wolf family's treasure, the Fang artifact, for the first time in decades. And she would not stop being angry if such a great person was introduced to Lyra. His Majesty claims that her daughter is definitely generous, and the lady confirms his words and says that it is because she is the coolest and sweetest in the whole wide world. The woman says that these thoughts often visited her, and perhaps this is the advantage of a person. And she understands that no matter how sad and painful it is now, someday it will pass. And if you think that joy, peace, and happiness will come later, then you will be able to survive any marking, even with difficulty. The emperor heard this and said that such words would suit lyrics, and his wife said that she thought so too, and apparently learned it from her daughter. And perhaps that is good, because in any case, the emperor can put aside his hatred of people and enjoy the present, and people have good sides too. She says that she herself cannot believe in such a thing. At this time, the emperor grabs her by the waist and says that he knows one advantage of becoming a human. At this time, the main character looks at her gold coins and reflects on the fact that a lot has happened today. And she is really very tired. But on the other hand, she again felt the importance of others and love for them. Lyrica reflects on the fact that she still has to look after her mother, and she can't believe that she cried like a little child. And the girl also understands that if her mother does this anywhere, she will be taken for a simpleton. The main character hopes that all the people dear to her will not get sick and will become even happier. And then she turns to Miss Fairy and asks her to give her strength and protect the people dear to her. The next day, Pai tells the prince that Lyrica gave him the amulet. Attell hears this and says that it is too childish, but he will take her efforts into account and accept it. However, Pai says that he is not convincing. Laub speaks with admiration about how his head suddenly started spinning. And he doesn't understand what to do if he suddenly breaks the one-of-a-kind silver amulet that the princess made especially for him. And then he thanks the princess and says that he will treasure it. The empress was also happy when she learned that Lyrica had made the amulet for her and said that it would protect her. His Majesty also received a gift from Lyrica, who will protect him. The emperor turns to his wife and says that she is leaving in such a radiant form. at the opera house, and everyone will only look at the Empress and will not be able to concentrate on the performances. The wife replies that he remembers her schedule well, and he explains that it's all because he has a wonderful woman following him. At this time, Lyrica was watching them and thought that they were married by contract, and she knew that now she was only playing the role of a couple with a good relationship. But she also knew something else. Her Majesty asks her husband if he will go for a walk with her. The Emperor replies that he will not be able to go as he has put aside his business and has gone out for a short while to see his dear wife off, and also says that he is beginning to worry, thinking that by letting such a beautiful woman out all alone. The Empress assures her that eventually she will return to him again. At this time, the main character thought that they really did seem to have come from the pages of a fairy tale about a prince and princess, and one could only look at them with delight. The Emperor looked at the lyric, asked if she had made that amulet. Then he took her hand and told the servants not to follow them. His Majesty explains that this garden is only for the imperial family, and even the closest servants cannot enter it, and he thinks that it will be more convenient for them to talk in a secluded place. The surprised girl asks if His Majesty is a magician, and he objects and also says that it is something similar. The Emperor says that he has the power of the dragon race. Hearing this, the girl says that now she understands what it is, and then says that she thought he was freezing people. His Majesty invites Lyrica to tell how she made a talisman for her mother. The princess invites him to listen, and then tells him that this is real magic, because the gold piece shines in a special way. And when Bryn saw it, she was also surprised. His Majesty says that it is indeed magic, and then asks who knows, except Saul, that she used magic. The girl replies that only Bryn knew, and she has magical records because she helped her create the amulet. The Emperor says that not everyone can use magic just because they have the right book, and if other people find out, nothing good will happen. And he suggests that Lyrica not tell anyone else about this, and that she should return the book to its place. His Majesty says that although this book itself has no powers, its existence creates problems, and it is incredibly dangerous to want to change people's feelings with magic. The Emperor reports that now in this world, only 3 species of creatures are capable of using magic, living on the edge of the world and having made a deal with the original spirit, the people about whom legends are made. It is the dragon and also the first people, the Great Ones, who turn back time and distorted space. But they lost their homeland, mixed with the wild animals of these lands, and died out. At this time, the Emperor thought that although Lyrica showed magical abilities, she probably did not have as much power as the great archmages of the past. Until now, very few people were born who inherited their genes and had a penchant for magic, but all they could do was correct or improve something big. And His Majesty understands that the power that manifested through the consciousness of something with the help of such a children's book. And then he tells Lyrica that he will teach her magic. The princess heard this and was surprised, and then asked if he would tell her about her, and she wondered when they would start. The Emperor replies that they will see about that in time. And at that moment, he thought that he did not believe that this child was a magician. And if you think about it, she has all the signs of a magician, and she is strong and kind-hearted. The gentleman looks at the princess and asks why she appeared now and why it was her. And then he says that he is confused now. Lyrica looked at the Emperor, but suddenly he disappeared. And at that time, she thought that he could move with the help of magic. And for her, it was incredible. However, she does not understand how she can get out of there. After all, she is in a labyrinth. And for her, this is a disaster. The girl saw the roof of the palace and thought that no matter how long she walked, it did not get any closer, and the road stopped again. And at that time, she thought that if a fairy appeared at such moments, she would help her and lead her to the exit. However, the main character understands that this cannot happen, and she does not understand where she can get the strength to wander through this labyrinth. Suddenly, Lyrica saw Feared and was surprised, and then asks why he is here. An hour ago at the Barat estate, Feared. After he went to the sun yard at the invitation of the princess, he began to think about her. And he understands that she is a child who is 4 years younger than him. But he keeps remembering her deep green eyes and wants to see them again. The young master understands that if he hangs around the garden of the imperial palace, he will not meet her again like that time. And he thinks that if he meets Prince Attil, he will definitely die. When Feared saw the Empress heading to the Grand Theater, he thought that he could act according to plan. And first, he wants to go to the imperial palace and understands that it is dangerous. And he thinks that he will not be noticed if he goes through the private garden of the imperial family, which almost no one enters. Feared screams and asks why Princess Lyrica is in this garden. The girl explains that she came with the emperor but got lost, and then asks why he is here. She says that this is a garden for the imperial family only, and he is not allowed here. The guy says that he will show her a shortcut to get out of here. And at that time, the main character thought that although she wanted the fairy to show her the way, it was not quite right. The blonde guy was running very fast, and the girl says that she can't keep up with him. Feared says that there is no time and therefore suggests that she listen on the way. At this time, the main character thought that it was incredible, since there was such a forest in the garden of the emperor's family. The guy tells her that he has to give her some information. And at that moment, the girl saw an open space and thought that from this place, the whole capital is visible. Feared reports that the Bolshoi Theater is set to catch fire today. And as soon as she leaves here, she must tell other people about it. Suddenly, they saw smoke, and the girl thought that it was too late. The boy turned to the princess and suggested that she quickly leave the garden. The girl falls to the ground and says that her mother went there, and she saw the fire and it is very strong. And at this time, she does not understand what to do. And she assumes that in this flame, her mother can die, and she has no one but her. Lyrica cries and says that if there is no mother, then neither will she. Hearing this, Feared offers, screaming, that she come to her senses and informs that now is not the time for this. The guy calms the girl down and says that if the flames are so big, then he is sure that the capital's garrison left immediately from there. And therefore, he is sure that nothing will happen to Her Majesty the Empress. Feared brought the girl to the exit and informed her that he could not go further and suggested that she run away. On the way, Lyrica saw the prince, and he calms the girl down and says that her mother will return safe and sound, and he hopes for this. And then they got into the carriage and went to the theater. Lyrica ran out of the carriage and saw her mother. Then she ran up to her and asked if she was okay and not hurt. The Empress replies that she is fine, and then says that she did not think she would see them here. And then she turns to His Majesty and says that he has injured his leg, and it was a really big flame. The Emperor says that he was lucky because it started to rain and that his wife was also lucky because she has a husband like him. At this time, the prince thought that he knew that the rain was caused by His Majesty. And it is unknown how many people would have suffered if the Empress had not been there. And she held on until the very end and helped people get out. And it was very dangerous. The Emperor suggests that he quickly goes to the palace. However, his wife objects and says that he cannot just leave. Lyric sees her mother's injured leg and says that she can't get up. However, her mother calms her down and says that she is fine. Then she turns to the Emperor and says that it is hard for her to stand on her own and therefore offers to support her. Her Majesty claims that she cannot miss the chance to improve the image of the imperial court because of a few wounds on her legs. And at that time, he thought that their contract must be worked off conscientiously. At this time, the prince thought that the Empress was wounded, but saved people and did not even immediately return to the palace, but held a whole ceremony there. And he understands that tomorrow every newspaper will make a fuss, and the authority of the imperial court will definitely grow. Mother suggests that Lyrica return quickly and then says that she will go after Togo, as she will help put everything in order there. And she says that she will not be able to do anything since it is too dangerous, and she has only one night, and therefore she must leave quickly. Within the dazzlingly shining landscape, receiving universal love, stood the Emperor and Empress, as if they had stepped out of a painting and were praised by the happy people. The main character remembers that when her mother passed out from drinking alcohol, she always had to take care of her and had to earn for housing and food, investing in checking everything personally. And always hug her when she repeated that she loved her, and her mother blamed herself and cried. Lyrica understands that no matter how incredible her mother was in all these rumors, she cannot be without her, and she was obliged to be there and help. The girl looked at her mother standing with the Emperor and thought that right now she would thank her for everything she had done so far. And now she would be able to cope with everything, even if she was not around. The main character understands that now her mother does not need her help. In the evening, the Empress, lying in her bed, says that she cannot sleep. And the Emperor says that this is not surprising, after what happened during the day, and then asks if she would like a little drink. The wife asks him in surprise if he doesn't know that she was addicted to alcohol. And then she says that she thinks that her daughter was very scared today, and all she did was cry. And at that moment, she thought that her daughter still can't trust her. Suddenly, the Empress saw His Majesty holding a candle in his hands and saying that it was too dark for a man. And then he asked her if she was afraid of fire. The woman says that she is not at all happy to tell someone about her weakness, and then explained that usually it did not affect her in life, and therefore she thought that she had overcome her fear. But as it turns out, This is not so. The lady recalls that the fire grew so fast and furiously that it was as if someone had arranged everything in advance. And just like that time, the flames engulfed everything around. And she knew that today there would be a fire in the Bolshoi Theater. And so she had fully prepared for herself a fashionable ternary dress for the day. The Empress remembers that in her past life on Altiosa, she was invited to the Bolshoi Theater by contract, and that same day there was a fire. And she went to the theater, full of confidence that everything would be different, because she knows the future. As soon as she saw the flame, her body froze and she could not move. And at that time, the Empress understood that she could not yet change her fate, because the flame was like a fire on a bridge for execution. At that time, she understood that she could not just leave Lyrica alone,